If you had a friend who was a king, what kind of a gift would you give him? Well, there are many people of prominence who have been thrilled to receive this. Zenith's famous 9-band transoceanic, the world's most exciting radio. Powered to tune in the world. You'll find every Zenith radio, from the famous transoceanic to the tiniest pocket transistor, is built in the Zenith quality tradition, including super-sensitive FM/AM radios, and some table and clock radios, and powerful solid-state portables. Over 100 radios to choose from, priced to fit every gift budget. At Zenith, the quality goes in before the name goes on. If you're buying a radio for a king, a friend, or for yourself, why not get the best?
Christmas gift values up to $15, now only $4.96 at Kmart. The amazing cookie machine, delicious decorative fun. Make beautiful rugs with the amazing speed tufting kit. Create exciting fancy foods with the potato chip machine. The bottle and jar cutter recycles throwaway bottles and jars into beautiful glassware. The rhinestone and stud setter stylizes jeans, shirts, anything. Homemade ice cream is easy with the automatic ice cream machine. Get these great Christmas gift values for just $4.96 only at Kmart.
Give me an Anheuser-Busch Natural Light.
Just say natural.
You see, you doesn't have to call it Anheuser-Busch Natural Light, and you doesn't have to call it Anheuser Natural, and you doesn't have to call it Busch Natural. Just say natural.
Johnson's right.
Oh, you can call me Ray, or you can call me Jay, or you can
For
call
a
me
great
Jack.
tasting light beer, just say natural.
But you doesn't have to call me Johnson.
2 naturals, please.
Please don't ask him his name.
Name? You can call me Ray, or you can call me...
53 to nothing. This team could use some magic.
Bake the magic.
Open the door to a wonderful show.
With Pillsbury chocolate chip cookies.
Bake the magic of pumpkin fresh dough. Hot chocolate chips when the other guys won. So chewy, ooey, gooey, they're a bunch of fun.
They tackled those cookies.
You can make magic, you know we did. With the magic of pumpkin fresh dough.
This boy is losing his pull. Why did he lose his pull so soon? He didn't fuel up with a good breakfast.
Cheerios!
Like this good, nutritious breakfast with toast, juice, milk, and yummy Cheerios, which has almost no sugar. When you fuel up in the morning with a Cheerios breakfast,
It'll really get you going. Hey! Cheerios!
Think of the biggest sports fans on your Christmas list, and I'll show you the biggest present you can give them. Here it is, a whole year of sports. Week after week of the top magazine in sports, Sports Illustrated. Starting with our special year-end issue, and followed by the bowl games. Super Bowl 15, the year in sports, plus baseball, basketball, hockey, tennis, golf. 52 great issues of Sports Illustrated at our special holiday rate of just $27.95. That's $8 off our regular subscription price. And your shopping couldn't be easier. Just dial toll-free 800-621-8200 with the addresses of the people on your list. A gift card will be on its way, and we won't bill you until next year. Sports Illustrated is 64% off the cover price, and the phone call is free. So call 800-621-8200. And they'll cheer you once a week for the rest of the year.
Ever feel like you're on a date all by yourself?
Get set, let's get closer.
When your husband says, I love you, does he yell it from across the room?
Get set, let's get closer.
Only Certs has flavor crystals and retsin for great taste and fresh breath that lasts over an hour. So if your sweetheart serenades you from long distance,
Get set, let's get closer.
Imagine a gift under your tree that the whole family can play. An Atari video computer system and game cartridges from Meyer and Frank. Now through Christmas, these cartridges and the video game system are specially priced. Easy to hook up and easy to play against a partner or one-on-one with the computer. Sports games, action games, thinking games, a wide selection to choose from, all specially priced through Christmas. Meyer and Frank, all stores.
For everything under the tree.
That's right. Ring that bell. It's Saturday. What's up, Cyberspace Cadets? It's Irate Prostate. You know that means it's time for the one and only Exelereighted Deconstruction.
Yeah!
Yay!
And the crowd goes wild.
It does. It does. I'm tracking. I've got some kind of a audio leak going over here. I think it's fixed.
There we go.
What's up, everybody?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a little slow right now. Hi, everyone. I've been very busy most of the day, so I'm still a little brain fried right now.
Yeah, I've had one hell of a fucking week myself. I've probably spent 70 hours working this week. No joke. And it's all because I managed to fry my laptop Monday morning. And I didn't have anything backed up. Anything at all. Yeah, so the story is more like this is as bad as it gets. So Sunday, I have this project that I probably have 16 real hours into that I've been working on over the last couple weeks, right? And Sunday, I get on and I realize that the tables in the databases that I'm using that are really piecing the project together, they dropped and didn't reload. So I'm like, God fucking damn it. Like, so I can't really work on it because any change I make, like, I can't see if it works because the whole project's broken. So I have to wake up at 3 a.m. to get my offshore team to fix that problem, right? These guys from India. They fix it. So around 4 a.m., I start working on it. I put in about 4 hours, get it done, get up to go take a shit. And I come back and this half a pint left of Sailor Jerry that was sitting, it was left over from Saturday when we did our stream. I had this cable mess from hooking my laptops up to my laptop box. So whenever I jerked my mouse, I knocked it over and it just spilled right on top of the fucking thing. And I didn't notice when I got up, right? So I just let it, I was, for 10 minutes, my laptop just soaked in alcohol. And I came back to a screen that said hard drive not found.
Oh, shit.
Oh.
Yeah, so I had to fucking call the help desk, drive downtown into the office, which was really fucking creepy, by the way. Like, it is a ghost town in there. It reminds me of a long time ago when I had to work overnights for the 24-hour, we did 24-hour site support. But anyway, they gave me a new laptop. That wasn't the issue. I just didn't have anything backed up, and the guy tried to recover the hard drive, and they're like, no, it's fried.
Oh, dude, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, my boss was cool about it. He brought it up in our team meeting. Like, at first, I thought he was actually just really, really fucking mad at me, but he didn't want to add insult to injury, so he's going to wait for a little bit to ream me for it. But we had our team meeting, and he said, well, guys, don't have anything saved locally that you're working on, right? Put it on a NAS drive or set up, like, we have this thing called OneDrive, which automatically backs up a folder. He's like, set that up. And then he admitted, like, I have the same issue. But the reason he sounded cranky when I was talking to him about it, he wasn't actually cranky. He's about to have neck surgery, and he's all hopped up on killers.
Oh.
Right, so he just... Yeah, like it was totally
the world sucks.
Totally unrelated. But yeah, anyway, like I still have not rebuilt that project, and that's what I'm going to be doing tomorrow and Monday. Because of what happened over the last year, we actually have Martin Luther King Day off as a company.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I guess there's one thing Critical Theory got
your boss
an
is
extra day off work. Well, my company is just like every other corporation that's at least paying homage to all the woke nonsense, right? It's like all the companies that made a post in black and white after the George Floyd shooting and whatnot, or death. Basically, every major corporation feels the need to placate it to an extent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of frustrating because there is a very large swath of America that actually looks up to Martin Luther King.
Yeah, hold on. Man Squatch said, I got my laptop blackout drunk. Well, that's a good time to say what's up to the chat, man. We got Rico 8181. Sinrise, man, what's up, dude? I know the Insomnus just ended. I was a little too busy to hop in there.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't home, guys, or I would have been there.
Yeah, if you want to hook us up and shill this link out in the Insomnus channels, I would be much appreciated, because I'm sure your fans would love what we're talking about. But then, we got Carl, Mr. Goatman, Madness, Philip Daniel, and like I said, Man Squatch. Did I miss anybody?
No, I don't think so.
All right, well, on to the topic for today. You guys remember last week, I know we cut short. Some of you finished off. We finished up talking about things on my channel, even though we got very off topic. But we kind of went over how, like, a summary of what we mean by critical theory. Just did a very brief overview on the history of it and how it came to be this, weird applied postmodernism that we see today. And then we talked about how we're entering this new postmodern era where I think liberalism as a guiding philosophy for our institutions and our politics, it's done. I feel it's completely dead, and we will now have to be dealing with these new, which I think James accurately describes in the video we're about to watch, pseudo-realities. And it's actually the constructing of these pseudo-realities that is what spreads and will ultimately take over our institutions. It's the mechanism for wokeness to go about its business, even though people like us, we look and see it's complete bullshit. These pseudo-realities is how it convinces the normies, or even the people that don't necessarily buy into it. It's the way it convinces them to just kind of be complicit with it. Because, I mean, you have to think about it. If they tell you this reality and everything the news is telling you, your friends are telling you, and you're just like, man, I don't really see it. Like, a lot of people don't want to come out and say, like, I don't understand. This seems like complete bonkers. This is not the reality that I'm experiencing. But then you look like the crazy one, right? Like, once this pseudo-reality reaches a critical mass of believers, then it's the people on the outside that feel like they're crazy, not the people on the inside.
Right. Which makes sense if you think about it.
Aren't we already there?
To some degree, yeah.
I think it's been building up.
Inside academia, without a doubt.
Yeah, I think it's been building up. And just like I said last stream, I think Trump, in a way, whether I know he didn't mean to, but he was acting kind of as a bulwark against this encroaching ideology, right? You had somebody in power that just said no. and would call it out for what it is. We're not going to have that for the next 4 years.
Yeah, I don't want to think about all the things that are going to go away.
Well, y'all ready to just cue this here up? This here thing, audio, and is everybody hooked up to the VLC?
Yes.
All right.
I see it.
All right, we got James Lindsay from I think it was the most recent podcast.
Yeah, it's the most recent public New Discourses podcast.
Nice.
You had one of our streams removed where we went over a shorter video that he does only subs on New Discourses. I wonder if that's the reason it was removed, because he doesn't seem to care. I've seen plenty of streams that go over New Discourses videos and they don't get hit.
Right.
But I wonder if downloading the MP3 from Patreon that's only for subs and posting it on the internet might have been a line too far. At least you didn't get a strike for it, though, right?
No.
It just disappeared.
I got a strike for Santa Claus versus the Martians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't understand this stream, by the way. Like, I think out of all the streams to just get removed for no reason or struck for no reason, this is the one that gets hit the most.
It's really weird. Well, we had that dude that was doing those fractals that was hitting us under the name of UFC 201. It's like, yeah. So, but that was clever.
I'm guessing the reason you kept winning the appeals on that, I'm guessing it's because
he didn't want to reveal his name. Right.
He was striking it under false pretenses.
Exactly. And so,
and
then when he
revealed his name.
Yeah, then I acquiesced and said, okay, fuck it. Man, just come at me straight, people. That's all I ask.
All the dude had to say is quit using my shit for your stream.
Yeah, just hit me up in an email, DM me. I'm very friendly,
Comment on the fucking video if you want.
Yeah, exactly. And share this bitch out. All right, so we're going to run now. Y'all ready? Pull up a chair. You got your drink? All right.
I got tasty tea.
Nice. All right. You got your headphones on. Everybody comfy, cozy. Y'all get a blanket, put it around you if you need it.
Before you start, I do want to welcome the late arrivers. We got... Oh, wait. You gave one of them a wrench, so I lost them.
3-4 Shielder.
Ripper, Spittle Buggies, Oven Doge.
Oven Doge is Ryan.
Oh, okay, Ryan. That's the
I
other
do like
person
that alt
say.
title, though. I do enjoy that alt title.
And of course, Becca.
I come with you sideways. Yeah,
I do like Oven Doge, though. That was a pretty catchy name. That's a good one.
3-4 Yoda, greetings. Ryan, Becca Madness. Who did you say? Whoops. What?
Irate Boomer did.
What?
Uh-oh.
No, yeah.
Irate Boomer did.
No, I didn't. I haven't. Anyway, it's a long story. What I wanted to. The Oven Dodge. Mitch the Ripper. Hey, man. Man Squatch. I don't know if I said hey to Man Squatch, so I want to make sure I did. Cardi Groza. Sinrise. Greetings. Nightbot. Goat Man. Nightbot's an asshole. I'm just saying. And Philip Daniel. Hey, man. So we got the crew hanging. All right. Well, let's let our minds take us to a better place, or maybe to a more terrifying place. I don't know. You tell me.
This is actually really fucking terrifying.
This is it exactly.
Yeah, I think we're safe with running this at 1.25 speed. 1.5 is a little fast because James is a pretty fast talker.
All right.
Hey everybody, you are listening to the New Discourses podcast. This is James Lindsay, and I want to talk to you about psychopathy and the origins of totalitarianism, which is the title of my newest essay, or newest long essay on New Discourses that I just put out on Christmas Day. What a day for it. I wanted to give people a long read since a lot of people are locked down and apart from their families. Before I kind of break into the subject, which hopefully will be, I mean, it's a heavy, difficult subject. Hopefully I can do an okay job explaining it here in a looser way than the essay, which I hope you'll go read. I wanted to tell you a little bit of like housekeeping. For those of you who subscribe to me, very much appreciated. I'm going to try for the next little while, whether it's on Patreon, Subscribestar, or YouTube, or whatever else, to do a kind of behind the scenes, what am I up to, kind of regular show for subscribers only. Hopefully I'll keep them between 5 and 10 minutes, 10, 15, 20 minutes, you know how it goes. But for subscribers anyway, I'm going to try to do a miniature podcast. So if you want to get into that, sign up on one of those subscriber platforms and you can hear my behind the scenes. Topic is kind of appropriate, this first one, because my first one I just actually recorded is Have I Gone Crazy? And we're talking about psychopathy and the origins of totalitarianism here today on the New Discourses podcast. So I started off, I'll actually read the first sentence of the essay and then kind of just launch into talking about what we're talking about. So I want to break down the difficult language so that people who read the essay can understand what I'm saying. I know it's a hard read. I didn't mean for it to be an easy read, because if it was an easy read, it'd be 5 times as long. It's already 8,600 words. That means it would be a short book. Maybe I will turn this into a book. I'm actually considering it. I think I could do some interesting work around this topic. But the first sentence of my essay is that many of the greatest horrors of the history of humanity owe their occurrence solely to the establishment and social enforcement of a false reality. So false realities are the real subject here. And borrowing off of the Catholic philosopher Joseph Piper, in 1970, he wrote a very important essay. I encourage everybody to look it up and read it. At least the first part of it. It's called Abusive Language, Abuse of Power. And he refers in that essay to these false realities by a kind of more academic term that I will stick with called pseudo-realities. Pseudo just means false. So pseudo-realities are a false reality. They are not the same thing as... It's important to understand that a pseudo-reality has to look real, right? It has to look real enough. It's a distortion of reality. It's not a complete fabrication. It's not a complete alternative world where everything's completely different. It's a picture of reality reinterpreted in a peculiar way. They are not real, however, they're not accurate descriptions of reality. And the point of creating pseudo-realities is that the people who create and maintain the pseudo-realities gain access to power within the construct. So you hear all this stuff, blah, 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 is a social construct. Pseudo-realities are a social construct that are organized such that the people who participate in them intentionally and can force other people to participate in them unintentionally gain an advantage and can use that to manipulate them into to having power. So the creators of the pseudo-realities have power when people participate in pseudo-reality.
Yeah, I have a comment real quick. I don't think that James gets into it, but one of the things, and this is why I say like these kind of pseudo realities that are being forced upon us, is the death to liberalism. Is liberalism? It's more than just a political philosophy, but it's a way of conflict resolution that is very attuned to this notion that an objective reality exists, and that we can search for, we can find truths about this objective reality that you and I can both test and agree that are real based on all the information available. Now, these truths might be provisional truths, right? But nonetheless, it's a system that is designed to evolve and converge on truth. So whenever you install these pseudo realities, what you're doing is you're installing something that's inherently anti-liberal.
Right. I think a great example of what he's talking about is what we're seeing right now with the less embracing of the police to justify the narrative. With the policeman that was the Capitol Guard that got supposedly struck by the fire extinguisher, right?
Well, yeah, because there's nothing worse than people that are showing up and.
Well, I mean, all summer they've been saying ACAB, right?
Yeah, of course. It's once again, all cops are bastards unless they are the victims of wrong thinkers, right? In which case, They're heroic because whatever they were protecting is something that was worth protecting.
But it's consistent within that psychotic reality, right?
Correct.
But from an actual subjective, independent viewpoint, you can clearly see that it is insane.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, you're correct, because within the woke pseudo-reality, people are completely justified in resorting to violence to battle something that in this pseudo-reality is considered true, which is that we have systemic racism in the United States, and one of the biggest problems is that we have a widespread problem of white police officers that are racist shooting unarmed and innocent black men, right? Mm-hmm. So in that context, they are completely justified. However, also in this pseudo-reality, the idea that there might have been any issues with the election and that there might be a disenfranchised group of the population that is upset, and some of them resort to violence, and then they go after what within this pseudo-reality they consider to be an institution that is, untouchable. Nobody should ever go after the House of Representatives. Then you are beyond repair, and it's the worst thing that could ever possibly happen to this country. Right. So it creates this issue where you have this asymmetry exist, and it's obvious to us, but in the pseudo-reality, it really is asymmetrical, even though in reality it's not.
Indeed. You ready to roll?
Becca has a good idea. Facts don't matter as long as you're morally correct. That is a statement that they actually explicitly say sometimes.
It's very unnerving to me, because I spent my whole life hearing that the word moral meant you were part of the Christian conservative movement. Okay? All of my formative years, you had to do these things because it was the moral choice. That was always the Christian conservatives' perspective.
Absolutely.
So I associate it with religion.
Well, social justice stemmed from religion, man.
Yeah, black liberation theology.
Yeah. So there's a strong correlation there, and the whole deal. But you're absolutely right, I think, for lack of personal spiritual exploration, these people have these belief systems put in place right in front of them, right there to grasp on, so they don't have to do any work and discover their own personal spirituality, right? So they adopt it, and it's pseudo spirituality. So to them, there's an emotional component to it.
Yep. And James will get more into that as we continue on.
I just find it unnerving, and I'm very disapproving of it, because I really prefer the secular kind of conversation and discussions we've always had about our government.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a reason why the biggest opponents of this woke movement are people that are between, the ages of I would say 30 and 45, because they remember being younger whenever a similar movement, which you were talking about, which was the Christian conservatives or the Christian coalition, were also trying to use their own pseudo-reality and install a moral order upon society. Now, they ultimately failed, but
well, see, this can go all the way back, to the effect of the Soviet Union, disruption from within. Their whole, I mean, if we want to go there, so all this does maybe stem in Soviet thought, because it's what is it? The four. I got them written down here because I was talking about them the other night. I've forgotten the four stages of being conquered. demoralization, right? So it'd be like a loss of religion, loss of faith in the police force, things like that. And then next is disruption. These are the 4 stages of disruption. And then there's, of course, crisis. And then there's what they call normalization, which is the final part. Which... Yeah,
while they would never admit it, that's exactly, like, they borrow... And it's actually, it makes a lot of sense because the origins of what led to Stalinism and what led to... like, if you go before even the critical theorists of the Frankfurt School, right?
Exactly.
The origins of where this came from is the same. Like, there's a lot of overlap.
Indeed. It's just, I don't know, I don't understand how, people can hold on to philosophies like this. I don't know. I wax weird.
I don't understand because you have to directly inject cognitive dissonance into your life and make it part of your existence.
Right. And if you worked really hard to like undo that shit all your life, right? That you're going to be highly resistant to the idea to do that.
Yeah.
So, there's that. If it feels, it's like there's an alignment within people. And if you're spiritually and mentally, emotionally aligned, okay, you're going to feel that alignment, right? When you're not, when you're in, what I mean by aligned is, I mean in like consistency, right? That there's no dissonant thought or feeling or spiritual experience that's causing that crash with internally.
Yeah.
So all right, let's keep rolling. I'm the smooth brain here, so I need to shut the fuck up and listen to James because his wrinkly, beautiful brain. We need to,
They become sort of like gods of their own world. I point out in the essay, quite stark terms, I want to be very plain how dangerous these are, is that when these arise and start to take root, and the woke ideology is an example, the Soviet ideology is an example, Mao's ideology in China is an example, Pol Pot's Khmer Rouge is an example, all of these things, when they take root, there are examples outside of the communist world as well. All of the examples I just gave are in some way communist, including woke, yes. When they take root, we are in a bad place. The beginning of bad times is coming. And I keep phrasing it this way. We have stepped into a trap. Think like a bear trap, right? And it's about to spring shut on our leg, and we've got to do something. And our options are not great. We've either got to jerk our leg out of this thing quickly before it snaps shut, because it hasn't quite yet. Or we have to let it snap on our leg, either where it is or as we pull it out, in which case we're going to lose part of that limb. Or it snaps on us and holds us, and we're trapped. And that's where you're going to get some of the worst calamities we've seen in history. The Nazis, Stalin, Lenin, Mao, Pol Pot, all of these things are all in the same category. The Nazis were not a social or a communist example, by the way. They are an example of a pseudo-real construction that was not communist. And so wars, genocide, civilizational collapse are the results when these things take over. And the West is flirting with one right now. So the nature of pseudo-reality, like I started to say a minute ago, is that they are false constructions of reality that look real enough. That's the key. They have to look real enough. As I put it in the essay, they must present a plausible but deliberately wrong understanding of reality. In the case of the woke example, they posit that our world is constructed in systems of power that are the ordinary operating state of affairs of our society, whether those are racism, sexism, patriarchy, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, ableism. It could just go on and on listing all of these so-called power dynamics that allegedly organize society. So it's not that we have society where people are interacting with one another, mostly of their own free will, to the best of their ability, to the best of their knowledge, best of their understanding. No, everything's down to systemic power dynamics. Systemic power is the woke pseudo-reality. They are a kind of cult reality. The analogy I give in the beginning of the essay to try to explain pseudo-realities is that they are very much like what you run into in a cult. Earlier in the year, I had a very well-received, very popular essay, the cult dynamics of wokeness, where I outline the idea that the woke thing is a cult. Same thing could be said of the Soviets. The same thing could be said of Mao. The same thing could be said of Pol Pot. The same thing could be said of all of these examples. There is a cult interpretation of reality that has some kind of a distortion that makes it plausible enough for people to believe, but not accurate, to where a small but large enough percentage of the population will begin to believe it, participate in it, not know how, and then a bigger percentage will not know how not to participate in it. And this dramatically empowers the people who created it, who operate it, who benefit from it most, who I contend are psychopathic, because they live outside of reality and they create and enforce their pseudo-reality, their false reality, linguistically as a social construct, using techniques that are tantamount to bullying. But if you are completely divorced from reality, so let me explain what I mean by psychopathic here, because a lot of people have already been upset that in my essay I mentioned psychopathy. They're like, there's a definition. You have to be very formal about the definition. Oh, very smart people. Shut up. Very smart people are the useful idiots. I talked about that in the essay too. I'm using psychopathy as a kind of catch-all term, but I am quite aware of the specific term. The catch-all term is somebody who has, that I'm using is, it's somebody who has broken from reality in a way that they can no longer tell that they're broken from reality. And you say, that's not what psychopath means. It means more of this thing about being manipulative and power, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I know. I'm aware of Hare's diagnostic criteria, his 20-question inventory or 20-point inventory. I'm aware of the technical definition.
The dark triad. I wanted to throw that in there because he didn't mention it.
And my contention is that these things are actually constructed by people and driven most prominently by people who meet that definition, the real definition. They are legitimately psychopathic. Whether that's under, you can say, oh, I saw this on Twitter a lot. No, this is more about personality disorders. Okay. I don't know what the difference between psychopathy and borderline personality disorder is at like the finest clinical level, but I don't care. And nobody should care.
That's what I love right there.
It is a manipulative,
I don't care.
dangerous.
Don't worry about the word he's using here. Like, he's told you exactly how he's using it and what he means by it.
Right. He's saying don't get caught up in the minutia of the shit because you're falling for their game. That's their whole trick, right?
It really is. It really is the way they like to attack you, right?
Yeah.
Right.
They like to. I used to call it like baffling with bullshit, right? Where you sidestep a complete argument by focusing on like some semantic. Yeah, some semantic argument that's just completely irrelevant, and any reasonable person can understand what he's trying to say.
Right.
Or it's one of those where they'll just throw a mountain of data at you and go, see, I'm right. And that's just gish-galloping, and a lot of them do that because usually the data's unrelated and they just drop a bunch of stuff in your lap because they feel like it.
Yeah, but I can see where he's like going on this, right? So he starts talking about psychopathy, and then you have people in the comments section that are just like overwhelming the argument with things about whether or not this is accurately what it means to be a psychopath, right? And that's not what he's talking. Like, he doesn't care. That's the great answer. Is like, don't care. Like, I've already explained my position here, and we can move on.
Yeah.
Which is also the best way to deal with it.
Right. Right.
Circumstance where somebody has a massive deficit of empathy and lots of problems in terms of their behavior. We could lay out lots of different personality disorders, including clinical psychopathy, borderline personality, narcissistic personality, schizoid personality. And in fact, schizoid personality is largely ignored. Certain types of paranoia, certain types of social anxiety. Probably you could clump all these people together, each one some fraction of a percent of the population, to get up to about 5 to 7% of the population who is generally mentally not well, creating an alternative reality that they can no longer distinguish from reality. But what I mean here is that these are people who cannot, this is the essence of what I mean by psychopathy. These are people who cannot cope with reality as it is and who have the psychological makeup necessary to make other people behave in a way that enables their problem. That's what I mean by psychopathy. They have the ability to create various, whether they're manipulative, whether they're linguistic, whether they're immoral, traps to bully people into behaving in a way that enables their inability to interact with reality as it is. And they have actually not just, they have a complete lack of empathy because they're so wrapped up in their own lack of ability to deal with reality that they feel totally entitled to manipulate other people into participating in their fiction. Yeah. Trans women are women. There's one.
Real quick pause.
There's one. No, I'm sorry. Trans women are trans women.
Like, everything he just said, he's basically explaining cancel culture and those that promote it.
Right.
Those that excuse it. Right. Those that they come out and they say, well, freedom of speech does not mean freedom of consequence. That's the most hollow fucking statement on the planet, right?
Yes.
If somebody just comes out and expresses their opinion and they're wrong, right? Being wrong should not be a way. In a healthy society, worst case scenario that if somebody expresses their opinion, they're wrong, right? Like, actually, an opinion can't be wrong, but maybe they're wrong about other things that are leading to that opinion. But being wrong in a healthy society is not an excuse to go after their employment, go after their family, go after all their social media, like just ban them from the internet and kick them out of polite society, right? That's not an excuse. And in order to actually think that that's a good idea, you have to be psychopathic in the sense that you lack empathy for other people.
Yeah.
That's all I had to interject.
Well, all right. So a great example of that would be Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York. That motherfucker, he is a psychopath and a sociopath, whatever you want to call him. The dude has no remorse. He doesn't give a shit about anybody but himself. And people are dying, and he's worried about writing a book and getting an Emmy award. The dude wants to be famous, and you know, he's killing people. I mean, this is a literal example of exactly what we're talking about, and everybody is perfectly fine with it. You know, the people that live in this world, they're perfectly fine with him because he's doing what's right. He's doing what the authority tells him to do, right? He's following the authority, whatever the authority has been identified, right?
He is the authority.
Right.
See, that's the other big part of this problem is that we have gone to this really weird, bizarre place in America where suddenly elected representatives are leaders.
Well, and science is God, right? To some degree.
No, science is not God. Your leaders are your elected representatives.
So now the body politic is God.
Yes.
And there are priests. And our nuns.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. All of this it's once you start trying to expect the representatives that are just as human as you are to be something extra, you've screwed a system like ours.
Or less than. Right?
Yes. You start putting people on a pedestal in a way that they don't deserve. And they're just as flawed as you and I. Those are just people. You know, I'm sure it would get me kicked off of a lot of social media and platforms, but I'm not upset that senators are scared or that Congress people are scared right now, because there was a time when members of Congress were actually afraid of us as the constituency because they were accountable to us for the shit they did.
Right.
So there's this. I want to say it, but I don't want to get the stream shut down.
I get it. I get the implied.
This is.
Go ahead.
We can circle back to this if we have time, because it goes back to what me and Atima were talking about with Sparky on the after stream last week. Whenever.
Yeah.
But this whole idea that the worst thing ever is to make the government afraid of the people is right. Like letting the government know there's consequences to ignoring large swaths of the population is a bad thing. Just doesn't line up with American history.
Not at all. You know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's keep rolling.
And whether it's because of autogynephilia, whether it's because of whatever other mental illness is behind that, when you absolutely demand that trans women are women, that is a pseudo-real claim. It is not a real claim. Trans women are trans women is a real claim. We can talk about the ethics, we can talk about the logic, we can talk about everything necessary around trans women are trans women. We can talk about what to do with them in sports, what to do with the situation with prisons, what to do with everything, civil rights, everything in real terms. But trans women are women is a pseudo-real claim. It is not a real claim. And if you are willing to bully people into enabling it, and I brought up autogynephilia for a particular reason, for those of you who don't know what autogynephilia is, autogynephiles are people, nearly always, I guess they always have to be men, who have a sexual fetish of picturing themselves as a woman. In other words, it turns them on to believe that they are a beautiful woman. And these are the people who, it has been documented very often, are the most aggressive among trans rights activists, with this very kind of bullying approach and this very intolerant trans women or trans women are women mentality. Because why? Because it's their sexual fetish. And if they can't bully everybody else into participating in it, the illusion's gone and it doesn't work, and their fetish isn't as good. That's psychopathic. That's psychopathic. This isn't a moral judgment whatsoever about anybody. This is a description of reality of what this is. And so pseudo-realities are constructed by people who cannot cope with reality or can't even maybe distinguish reality for how it is, and who are willing to manipulate other people.
Right. There's body dysmorphia, dysmorphic disorder too.
I know people with actual the dysmorphia. I know people like that.
Right.
And they usually have, there's years of therapy involved. There's all kinds of other stuff usually with people like that.
Yeah. Well, and the psychology has been infiltrated by the deconstructionist mindset, and so you can't get mental help anymore.
Well, you have various, like everything else, you have breakoffs in psychology, right? Like Jordan Peterson and a lot of other people. You'll actually find out that the people that are like clinicians, right, like Jordan Peterson, they're very different than the people that are in academia.
Oh, absolutely.
And they come to very different conclusions.
Absolutely. But it's infiltrating even that level through some of the lower types of I don't mean lower. It's like instead of psychologists, you go the social workers, right? That do counseling, right? You're going to get something different from them than what you would get from like a psychiatrist or even a psychologist, because the philosophy is starting to infiltrate, and so it's going to manifest at that lower level, and it's starting to move up. I mean, how can a guy how can a doctor who is supposed to do no harm allow and even encourage a patient to blind themselves with bleach? Right?
With what?
Causing corneal damage. There was a case in the United Kingdom where a psychiatrist urged this, helped this woman blind herself because she had that the disorder where you see yourself as an amputee or having some type of disability. So that's how sick this shit can get.
Ooh. Okay.
I'm surprised you didn't know about that, Thelma. If we can get some help out there, it's from BBC, man. I'll look it up real quick.
Jesus, I totally believe you. I'm just kind of, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
My God.
Right, and it's all about her reality now, right? It's her story, her reality.
Well, that's what I've always really disagreed with a lot of the transgender stuff that they're doing with wokeness, is that it really is, you're forcing people to play along with somebody else's delusion. And that's insulting to pretty much every autonomous creature on the planet.
Right.
So I don't.
Well, and segueing back into the video is, you're right. You're forcing people to play into this. I'm going to change the language to a pseudo reality, but the problem happens whenever the pseudo reality hits critical mass, and it's not the first time in history that we've had to deal with this.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, I just meant for you to play the video.
Okay.
My claim is that the pseudo-realities are constructed that lead to totalitarianism are constructed in a way that leads other people to participate in them until those people lose the ability, on a functional level, to distinguish reality from pseudo-reality. At which point they functionally become psychopathic as well. Do you follow me? So there are the people who are, in some sense, clinically or essentially psychopathic. They have certain problems. They bully other people into believing certain pseudo-real claims, using mostly language games. Those people, the more and the longer they participate until they finally lose the ability to tell the difference, become functionally psychopathic in the same psychopathic ideology. So I'm talking actually about an ideology generated by psychopaths, that the ideology itself could be described as psychopathic, and it generates in its participants a functional psychopathy so long as they are ensnared by it, whether that is that they participate in it, whether that is they don't know how not to participate in it. In other words, that they're held hostage by it. Okay? And so everybody who's trapped, everybody who's playing the game along with this, is participating in psychopathy at a functional level. That's what the essence of my argument is. And people say, you can't do that. Well, I did. So what I argue, to get into the more difficult parts of this, is that pseudo-realities, like I said, are created in order to give the people who create them power over other people. What's the point of giving them power over other people? To force them to participate in the pseudo-reality. Why are they forcing people to participate in the pseudo-reality? Because it's the only thing they can cope with. They can't cope with reality as it is. They can cope with the false reality they've constructed. If they get other people to play along, it's less likely that they have to cope with reality as it is. So they create a cult around that using various, mostly linguistic manipulations. In the case of the woke, and also communists often before them, you see a lot of double meanings of words. You see a lot of Kafka trapping. You see a lot of the Mott and Bailey strategy. So what are those double meanings of words? You see words like diversity. What does diversity mean? Or inclusion. What does inclusion mean? So diversity, we think means, oh, well, we need different people with different views. No, obviously diversity in their language means that we hire people with a critical consciousness who think about diversity in the same way. So we're going to preferentially hire people who are in disempowered identity groups. There's your pseudo-reality. We're going to think in power dynamics. We're going to preferentially hire people who are within that, who understand it from within. In other words, we're going to hire functional psychopaths. And because you can't tell the difference between functional psychopaths and real psychopaths very well within this thing, you're going to hire an abnormal number of activists who are psychopathic and grifters who know how to milk the system because they're actually psychopaths and have no empathy about the problem. So the ultimate point of creating a pseudo-reality is power. The power to enforce people to participate in your crazy pants world. That's double meanings are one way to get there. What is inclusion? I brought up inclusion. Sorry, I just distracted myself. Inclusion is repressive tolerance, right? It doesn't mean including people. It means including people according to this pseudo-real understanding of power, or of the nature of society. So it means making sure that nobody who has access to systemic power can possibly do anything, including just being present or saying anything that might upset somebody who has been disenfranchised by that alleged systemic power. Again, it's all pseudo-real. It's not real. Right. So therefore, it means people who have access to the system of power, white people, men, straight people, have very strict speech codes or are left out. Right.
Yeah, so what he was talking about there about power dynamics, I find a little bit hilarious because we've gone through the stream with the postmodernists, the ones that came up with this idea that society is just based on these power dynamics. You have the postmodern knowledge principle, the postmodern political principle. They all kind of converge on the same thing. But this applied postmodernism takes that power principle, and rather than what the postmodernists did, where they just kind of thought this power principle was a bad thing and that we need to get rid of it, they're trying to yield it for themselves. And that is a very big difference between the original postmodernist and what we're seeing going on right now, that I don't think we pointed out explicitly on the stream, but it's very obvious that it's happening. Right. Am I wrong?
No. Not at all. Not at all. You ready? No?
Yes, sir.
Excluded in the name of inclusion. Whereas people who are on the losing end of the stick can get away with pretty much anything except, of course, violating the pseudo-reality. You can't say something that goes against the pseudo-reality because then people would see through it. So that's what gets excluded. It's what Herbert Marcuse, the neo-Marxist of the Frankfurt School, called repressive tolerance. You must repress that which is intolerant according to the pseudo-reality. So hopefully you're starting to see how this works. Another one is a Kafka trap. A Kafka trap is what white fragility is all about, or if you follow me on Twitter, election fragility. Kafka trap is when your denial of guilt is taken as proof of guilt. So, I'm not a witch. Well, that's what a witch would say. That's a Kafka trap. It's named after Kafka's
Franz Kafka
novel, The Trial, where the protagonist, Joseph, is put through this kind of ordeal at kangaroo court. So denial of guilt is proof of guilt. So the point is to use these kind of manipulations. Again, the pseudo-reality is constructed in language. It is an artificial description of reality that's just plausible enough to sell itself. The name for the woke one is liberation. Liberationism, if you want. It's about systemic power. The name for the communist one, Soviet is a better way to look at it. The way for the Soviet one is that the party is going to lead you to the thing. That's what the point of Lenin and Stalin was, is that they created the party that was, they were technically bourgeois, but they were going to lead the people through the proletariat revolution, because the proletariat apparently were too unwashed of masses to be able to do it for themselves, as Marx predicted. So then you have to create this party, which tends to throw people into blenders before it's all over, starve them or shoot them or whatever else. Why? Because they're not participating properly in the pseudo-reality, which isn't real. So of course they're not participating in it correctly. The point is power. The point is giving themselves power. And then the way that this works, the reason that this works, I should say, is because there's some kind of utopianism involved. There's this belief by the psychopathic people in the heart of the thing that if we just enable their inability to live with reality as it is, then the world will be perfect. If we just get rid of all of the things that resist, then the world will be perfect. This is where schizoid personality becomes particularly poignant. There are many features of schizoid personality, but one of them is that they tend to retreat emotionally from the world and create...
All sounds like it.
What?
Yeah, it's communism. I'm saying when he's talking about these people think that if we just repress the ideas to an extent where everybody has to buy into it, then all of a sudden we get to utopia.
Right. And all right. So in the steps of communism, the Yuri Bezmenov shit is like it's demoralization, destabilization, crisis, and then normalization.
Okay, I think we're in the destabilization part right now.
You don't think we've reached crisis with the thing? No. Okay. See, people would argue with that, but I agree with you, Tim. To be honest,
we're somewhere in that area.
We're getting close.
Like on the timeline, we'll just put a circle between those two things and just be like, we're somewhere in here.
Yeah.
Right. I like Excel. You were talking earlier about religions that look up and down. You want to kind of throw that in right here?
Oh yeah. Well, this might not be the best place to do it. Let's go back about their lack of charisma, because that's really where that point strikes home. But yeah, I do have a point that I want to make that I think a lot of people will agree with, which is ultimately wokeness is this down-looking fire and brimstone type religion. But let's go on and I'll revisit that. But thanks for reminding me.
Indeed.
In their minds, kind of they tell themselves stories about how social interactions in particular are supposed to go, or how the world is ordered, and they kind of flip out when the world doesn't match their thing. You kind of have that here. Of course, it's not the whole story, but there's this view that the world is working out according to like a novel being written in people's heads, and if you just get rid of the problems that the psychopathic people creating the pseudo-reality can't handle, then everything will be fine. The real problem in reality is that this is a pseudo-reality. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for, in particular, normal people. And by normal people, I mean not psychopaths. It doesn't actually work for anybody, but the party, the psychopaths in charge, get to make it work for them for a while until the whole thing falls apart. And so there's this utopian drive in the middle of this whole thing. And obviously, if you've looked up the word, you would know that utopia means nowhere. Utopias don't exist. Utopias are not going to come into reality. So the point is to create a utopia for the psychopaths. If you look back at Stalin or Lenin or Mao, and you listen to that sentence again, the point is to create a utopia for the psychopaths. It all kind of makes sense. And this is the same thing I'm trying to tell people. This is the same thing that the woke are doing right now. The psychopaths are the liberationists, whether that's black liberation, whether that's queer liberation. And I'm not saying this isn't about black people, this isn't about gay people. It's about people with liberationist politics. In other words, people who have adopted. They don't know how to live in the world as it is. They have to live in this utopia where the specters of racism that they conjure into the world, or the specters of homophobia that they conjure into the world or exaggerate, are completely and absolutely stamped out. If you look back to the Puritans, they had to stamp sin completely out. It's like that. But the sins are these systemic power dynamics rather than, the temptations of Satan or whatever. So this, like I said, is done in language.
Fruitopia, that's right.
The title where I got pseudo-reality, the title of the essay that Joseph Piper wrote was Abuse of Language, Abuse of Power, the key being abuse of language. And that's actually super important because it also will tell you who our useful idiots and our psychopaths tend to be. So they tend to be people who are smart and linguistically savvy, but not necessarily great at anything else. That's if we were going to go all Nietzschean on it, where his idea of resentment comes into the picture. Resentment, that curdled envy of knowing that you're kind of, in this case, competent or special or whatever, but you're not actually all that competent or special. As my friend Peter Boghossian's always called them, they are...
Andrew Cuomo?
Yeah, the irony here is that's the hallmark of the bourgeois, right?
Yeah.
Like, the hallmark of the bourgeois is they come out and they say things and they sound good, but they're really not that special.
Right.
No. They're kind of actually really dumb. It's also like corruption breeds incompetency.
Well, all right. So when I was in college, and this, all right. So I made art. Okay, I made sculptures. I did sculptures and paintings, and I sold a lot of stuff. Right, and the people that would buy my shit would want to engage in some kind of like dialogue with me, like exposing, I guess, what their knowledge of art and, and stuff that they learned like in art history in college and shit. Right. And, all I could think of, I was like, there for the free booze, and B, just buy my shit. I wasn't all about the small talk. And I think that's kind of a thing that he's talking about right here, with these people.
Yes.
That may have not made any sense whatsoever, man, but
I got it.
It totally made sense to me, because I've had so many conversations, about art, and it's interesting, and something makes me want to come back to art, but that's for another day. Sorry, so we'll keep going now.
Underaccomplished, dyspeptic malcontents. That's a good way to phrase resentment. And so there are people, though, also who have high linguistic intelligence and relatively broken empathy. So linguistically skilled psychopathic people are the ones who create pseudo-realities and manipulate people into them. In the past, if you talk about somebody like Lenin or Stalin, or even Hitler, there's often a lot of charisma behind it. The woke movement appears to lack charisma entirely, which is probably good. But nevertheless, they're extremely, it came out of English departments, for fuck's sake. It is extremely linguistically savvy. And so it's extremely, more than maybe any of these previous examples, savvy at creating double meanings of words or multiple meanings of words, and manipulating language and creating traps and tricks with language, and these kind of pseudo-real manipulations that enable them to get, in particular, other intelligent, useful idiots that I call very smart people, to rationalize the thing for them. This is actually something, if I'm not mistaken, that Piper points out. I read a lot of things back to back before I wrote this essay, so I may be mixing some things together. You often will have, with these psychopathic pseudo-realities, what you will often have, to put it as bluntly as possible, is that normal people don't think anybody else is psychopathic. They don't think like psychopaths. They think like normal people. They have normal logic, they have normal morals, and they therefore presume that other people have normal logic and normal morals. This, by the way, is the weakness of liberalism. You have all of these like neo-reactionary tough people, tough guys or whatever on the internet saying like liberalism has failed, and all these kind of hardcore conservatives or whatever saying liberalism has failed. No, liberalism has weakness. Yeah, and its weakness is not necessarily being able to spot psychopath.
Well, first off, I want to say I have been saying liberalism has not. I don't think it's failed. I just think it's been run out of existence. One thing I don't like about what he's saying is conservatism in America has always, for the most part, outside of, I would say, the neocon movement that rose out of the 80s, I think that conservatism in America has always been about conservating liberalism proper, right? Not what we just randomly call the left, right? Like colloquially in America, we just call everything the left liberal. But that's not what liberalism means in the academic and philosophical sense.
Right. I mean, it's rooted in liberty. That's where the lib comes from, right?
Exactly, right? Like, this is why I've said plenty of times, like, the issue here is not between, like, the battlegrounds is no longer between, like, kind of the libertarian types and then your left liberals that think government should do a little bit more, but they still adhere to the liberal philosophy, right? Of individualism, liberty, personal responsibility. You know, they believe in free markets, even if they think that, you know, maybe there's more of a role in government to make sure the markets stay free, quote unquote. Like, those are arguments I used to have all the time, but we're not there. We there's no point in having that argument with people, because it's so far beyond what the fight is actually is right now that it's not even worth talking about. But going back to what he said about charisma, that is where I came, like, I was thinking about religions, right? Like, you have religions that look up, which are, and it's not even just religions, right? Like, you have certain Christians, they look up, they see God as like this thing that they look up to, and it's a way for self-enlightenment, self-betterment, right? It's a very personal thing, and it's a good thing. It's a positive thing in their lives.
Internal peace.
But then you have other people, right? Like, even within the Christian religion, that are all about looking down, right? It's fire and brimstone. It's pointing the finger at people for falling to the devil, right? Or their original sin. And I think the lack of charisma comes from the fact that the woke ideology is something that very much looks down.
Right.
It's all about the original sin of racism and recognizing your own flaws and punishment for those that deviate from the correct path.
Right. And that, I mean, that's essential for intersectional politics, right? To be able to look at and find out persons' flaws and then use them as a way to unify them.
Yeah, I mean,
it's brilliant and it's sick at the same time. It's fucked up.
Wokeism is the Westboro Baptist Church of the current political sphere.
Yes.
Right? They're the people that fucking show up. They don't care, like, whether it's appropriate or not.
Nice.
If they have a reason to come down on something, then they will show up no matter what.
Yeah.
And it's not about self-betterment. There's nothing positive about it. It's continually looking down.
Well, and most communist societies are not tolerant of homosexuality. You know?
Yeah. Well, this one. True. Well, yeah. This one is not tolerant of people that are just like, well, you can go be gay if you want, but in, like, my personal sphere, we just don't think that belongs in our religion, right? It's the. I mean, that's where it goes back to the Marcuse repressive tolerance, right? Like, anybody that has ideas that are intolerant, even if they're personal, right? They stick to those ideas within their sphere. They have to be ousted. They have to be removed from polite society. This is something Dave Smith, actually, when he was talking to Michael Malice, brought up. And he was talking about people who are legitimately racist. And he was like, a lot of the people that I talk to who are legitimately racist, they just kind of want to go fuck off, right? They just want to be racist in their own little sphere. Yet I'm supposed to treat them like they're the most evil fucking people in society, right? While other people who are literally actively voting to encroach on my personal life and other people's personal life and take away their liberties, I'm not supposed to. I'm supposed to think that they're better. They're on a moral high ground versus these racists that just want to go fuck off. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't.
Well, and that's the whole point. It's insane. You know, it's psychopathy. You know, it's psychosis.
It is psychop. Psychopathy.
Well,
I can talk.
and we really have been ingrained in our society to think that being racist is the worst fucking thing ever. But like I said, I think there's a reason that people kind of in a certain age range are the most likely to be opposing this new applied postmodernist critical movement. I think it's because they grew up in the 90s where
how about this?
We were taught that racism was the worst thing ever, but we were also taught that the idea is you need to judge everybody as an individual.
Well, but see, I think that's something that's unspoken with this younger generation, specifically Zoomers and people, after Gen Xers, is that part of the deal is that you have to acknowledge. I don't know. I had to go through a process of myself to where I had to accept myself for who I am, and part of me has been prejudiced in the past against someone based on what they look like, right? And you have to accept that part of you. No, you hold on. All right, it's Jung's shadow, right? You have to embrace the darkness. You have to embrace your own personal darkness to be more free from it, right? Or to at least acknowledge it. And most people are so afraid of acknowledging that, right? Is that they'll bend down and kiss people's feet to be absolved of that feeling.
Yeah,
right.
The major difference though is that the ultimate solution was forcing yourself into an individualist mindset.
Yes.
The ultimate solution for the woke, for that same feeling that you might have had, is forcing people into a collective mindset.
They are the Borg, right?
Yeah.
Resistance is futile. Join the hive mind. Resistance is futile.
I don't know if you really want somebody like me trying to be incorporated into that hive mind.
Yeah, no shit, man. You see, it's just they're intolerant. That's what amazes me is that a lot of these people that I speak with are supposedly say they're open-minded, but their mind closes fairly quickly when I, start talking about things like what we've been talking about, right?
Yeah, I actually don't say I'm open-minded. I think that is a cliche, right?
Right.
I think most people are very closed-minded. The only thing I say to people is like, I'm willing to examine your facts, and it might take me a little bit, but if you have a solid argument, I will reevaluate my positions. And I have over the course of a long period of time. Like, I still say I'm philosophically an anarcho-capitalist, for example, but I'm not the anarcho-capitalist that you see that are probably the people that first read Rothbard, and they're like, fuck yeah, man, I'm an anarcho-capitalist. Get rid of government tomorrow and everything will be much better. I don't think that way anymore.
Ain't cast forever.
Right? Like, I think the philosophy behind it is sound, but that's very different than looking at
once again, it's right.
Solutions.
It's unrealistic. Right, exactly. And that's the other side of that utopia continuum, right?
Yep. It's and the way to get around that is to take these ideas and look at them not as a destinationalist idea where you're trying to arrive somewhere, right? Like you're trying to get people to a place.
Yeah, man, exactly.
But a directionalist idea where you're trying to put people on the path to this place
to
that might not
enlightenment
exist, but at least they're on the path, right?
Right, exactly.
And I've become more of a directionalist than a destinationalist. Actually, I'm 100% a directionalist and not a destinationalist.
Yeah, this is more Eastern
because
shit.
Destinationalism is completely,
I mean, it's rooted in Eastern philosophical thought.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I totally
I'm sure it has something to do with it, but that was a tangent. We should go on with the video.
It was a good one.
Ethic, linguistic manipulations, and say no. And academics are particularly weak to this, partly because they want to always consider that idea and they don't want to be the closed-minded person. This is kind of where, Richard Dawkins was talking about something completely different, but when he very famously said you want to be open-minded but not so open-minded your brains fall out, that's a key liberal concept. If you are so open-minded that your brains fall out, you're going to become a useful idiot, or aka a very smart person, for one of these psychopathic pseudo-reality manipulations when it comes up and starts to gain power. So what these people do is they hear a word like diversity or inclusion that has these two meanings, and the activists mean something. So here's an example from Washington State. At the beginning of the year, this year, 2020, I guess most people hear this first in 2021, so at the beginning of the year last year, there was an equity task force in Washington State, and they said that we're going to make the definition of equity be disrupt plus dismantle. It's a very rare moment where they say, well, they're doing it very commonly now, but at the time it was very rare that they were saying things so explicitly, or as we say, saying the quiet part out loud. And so they were saying very clearly that when they say equity, they mean disrupt plus dismantle. But then
see, and that's the deal, right? It's like the talk. It's like Newspeak in 1984. It says it's the exact opposite of what it is, right? And that's what's going on here.
Don't we just call that doublespeak?
Yeah. And
okay.
and but it's the exact opposite, right? Exactly. All right. Yeah.
I had that fireside chat right around the election with Brett Weinstein and Jesse Singal, and we were like, Biden has this huge equity plan. Remember, equity equals disrupt plus dismantle is a definition that was worked into a legal task force empowered by the state legislature and governor of Washington last year.
Holy shit.
Here we are in late October of the same year, and Jesse's like, no, equity just means something about fairness, and I think he like read the definition or something like that off of are you kidding me? Or you see this like when we have the judge Amy Coney Barrett bring up the idea of sexual preference, and then people went berserk and said that's homophobic and it's a slur and it's offensive, and everybody's like, what are you talking about? And then they changed the dictionary later that day, the same day. They changed the dictionary. I think Merriam-Webster changed the dictionary to say that it's an offensive slur.
That happened.
We've seen this now with the World Health Organization change the definition of
nuts.
It was, man.
That's one of those things where people on the outside, like, just like we look at that and we're just like, yeah, like there's something tyrannical and like James is saying, psychopathic going on here.
Yeah, we actually saw the memory hole, right?
Exactly. I also have another question. In what world does having 20 to 30,000 troops amassed in D.C. for an inauguration make it look legitimate?
Yeah, that's something worth talking about. It's a little bit tangential to what we're doing, but
it's in the same realm.
I must say,
all
Jesus
part
Christ.
of the culture.
This is all about power. I mean, when you break it down,
it's part of the pseudo-reality that was constructed.
And sociopathy is all rooted in power too, right? It's about power and control, and that's why the word fits, in my opinion. You want to keep rolling?
Herd immunity around the pandemic. Herd immunity is now a term within vaccination. It's no longer just a description of when a sufficient number of people in a population become functionally immune to the disease by one means or another so that it can't really functionally spread. This willingness to manipulate definitions is something that happens. And the people doing this are psychopathic. And the people who are useful idiots, or very smart people, as I like to call them, will then step in and say, no, that's not quite correct. They must mean this very reasonable liberal thing. No, they don't. They mean something radical and insane. They don't mean the very reasonable liberal thing. You would have to be a conspiracy theorist to think that they mean that. That sounds very conspiratorial. This is what happens. This is how it works. So your average, very smart, useful idiot person gets manipulated into rephrasing the tenets of the pseudo-reality, the psychopathic pseudo-reality, rephrasing that in normal speak to make sure normal people feel comfortable with it. And then they have their own cultural milieu, the very smart people, the useful idiots, that's very high-minded. And the high-minded people couldn't dare be caught up thinking a conspiracy theory. They couldn't dare be thinking something that those crazy deplorables would be thinking. They can't touch it. And because they have their own little like status web, and they can't possibly think, because they're very smart, but they're not extremely smart, they can't possibly understand that the double meaning here is being used by people who willfully mean to apply the radical meaning and not the more reasonable one. They can't see that those people are not actually liberals. They call themselves liberals a lot of times, but they're not liberals. They can't see it because they're very smart, but they're not extremely smart. They then rationalize and defend the psychopathic ideology.
God, pause. What he just described are the worst fucking people.
No
Those
shit.
are like the people that I detest the most, because I'm not. They're probably smarter than I am, and the fact that they can't see it just pisses me off.
Well, all right. So it's like Jack, you know who from Twit, that Jack. Okay.
I actually now think Jack is a sociopath. But
well, think about it. All right. So like earlier in the week, he put out this long thing saying that he thought it was, it was problematic to be tampering, with the balance of the discourse, right, on Twitter. And then 2 days later, he's recorded saying, yeah, they're focusing on this one, account, meaning President Trump.
But they're going to go for more.
And then we're going to, and it's going to, and basically he said, and it's not going to stop.
Yep.
We're going to keep yeeting people off this thing until the discourse is appropriate.
He's talking out both sides of his mouth.
Yeah,
exactly.
There might be some truth and application to what James is saying, where he's been convinced of this narrative where the words themselves are the problem. And what really sucks is like being people on the outside is like, no, you're actually making it worse. Like you're disenfranchising more people. You're making more people think that their deepest, dark assumptions about what's going on in the world and this pseudo reality that's being pushed onto them is completely real, and you're making them even more upset. Tim Pool actually came out and said something that I thought was pretty accurate, right? So what Jack is doing is he's fighting a fire with a flamethrower.
Yes.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's trying to put out a fire with a big pile of gasoline. It's an excellent analogy. It's a really good. It is excellent. That's pretty much it. All he's doing is making things worse, and you can tell he doesn't care. I mean, they have the face because he was like on a Zoom call, I guess.
I don't think he knows.
Dude,
he doesn't care.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it doesn't seem to bother him at all in the way that he was just describing. Like it's like the dude is so smart is that he sees this as a mathematical problem of yeeting people.
It's not just that. He has a lot of people around him that think that told him that this is the right thing to do.
Right. Exactly. This is the choice you want to make because he's too fucking smart to make his own mind up.
Yeah.
Well, obviously.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He definitely I think accurately he falls into the useful idiot camp.
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
The cult ideology and make it seem safe and even in fact reasonable. So they ideologically launder a psychopathic cult ideology and make it more plausible and to make it seem more safe, where that makes normal people have a harder and harder time trusting their own senses and their own eyes, which means lured further and further into the psychopathic manipulations of the pseudo-reality. Like I said, I think academics are probably the most susceptible to this, partly because what I just said, their open-mindedness, their willingness to be extremely charitable to unlikely ideas, which is a virtue. I don't want to crap on that. That's a virtue. But also because that social milieu, they're all up in their kind of, hoity-toity, academically elite social milieu. Everybody's always prim and proper and absolutely correct. And you wouldn't dare say fuck. And they're so scared. They wouldn't dare make a your mom joke on somebody on the internet. You'd have to write a bad article about such a person who's lost their mind, obviously.
That's amazing, isn't it, man? It's the ultimate definition of what fart sniffers, man. It's like they buy their own bullshit to the point of where they're ridiculous and they're fucking touchy and sensitive.
By the way, while we pause, I want to take this to the panel of me, Irate, Batema. James Lindsay, we've shared plenty of his videos on stream. I think this might be one of the best ones.
I know, exactly, because he's really he's been on Twitter too much, man. Because
he's had his own evolution since he got into this business.
Dude, I would love to talk to that motherfucker.
He's kind of become way more stewedy and way more of a firebrand. And sadly, this is something that Milo said a while back, and I think this was completely correct, right? So, when Milo was going around and courting people and being very flamboyant and, purposely just fanning the flames. He was just like, for like any movement or actually even a reactionary movement, you need to have somebody that is a fire starter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the person that is going to spark the flames and awaken all the people that are thinking kind of the same thing, but aren't so bold, right? You need those people. And then you need people to come in behind them that are going to be more level-headed. I feel like James is kind of trying to play both roles right now, but
no, he's just being a person.
Yeah.
Well, no,
I'm seeing that too, Gemma, to be honest.
Trying is was the wrong word. He's not trying to play both roles, but he kind of is playing both roles of the fire starter and the moderate.
Yeah.
But we do need people to come in behind him and be the moderates, right?
Yeah.
We need vocal people to come in and just say like, look, this is not the way forward.
Well, okay, but define moderate at this point.
Exactly. In academia?
No.
Is that what we're talking about? Or are you talking about politically?
Yeah, no. Yeah, no. I'm not saying politically. I'm saying moderate in the sense that they're not like trolling on Twitter. They're not trying to fan flames with other people that they disagree with, right? They're just simply putting out there, trying to be as reasonable as possible to explain why this wokeness narrative is not the way to go.
Okay. That's a very small group of people that is dwindling by the day.
I think that group is growing, to be honest.
The calm, level-headed group? No.
I think that's your average person that is less likely to want to stoke flames and more likely to want to just learn how to explain things in a very plain and simple manner to their friends. I honestly, I have talked a few people out of the wokeness narrative, right? Like I've explained to them there's flaws in this argument, right? And they're reasonable people. They've just been beat to death by hearing it constantly to be like, all right, you have a point, and they reconsider. And maybe they haven't completely left it, right? They're they'll still say stuff like, well, you still have to look at systemic racism and drug charges and stuff. But I kind of agree that this whole cop narrative is wrong. I've gotten people to at least come to that, and I think that's progress.
Yeah.
Because outside of Twitter and my internet persona, that's more if people approach me with political problems, I am most definitely trying to be the level-headed moderate. I'm not trying to stoke the flames or make them feel bad or tell them, because that does not reach out to your average person.
Yeah, progress, not perfection, right?
Well, yeah, and what I'm saying is the fire starters, I think what James Lindsay is kind of trying to roll, but at the same time, given equipment to the more moderate-headed people to convince their friends that have bought into this a little bit to change their mind. I don't expect them to hey, follow James Lindsay, that will change your mind, because you're going to look at what he posts, and he shit posts a lot, right? Mm-hmm. And that turns off people that might actually be savable, but they are bought into the ideology, and they're going to look at that and be like, well, that's just shit posting. I don't want to see that. But the shit posting invigorates people like me to be like, yeah, this is total bullshit. We got to fucking stop this. Right. So I think there is, I don't know. I look at the woke, and I see that you have your archbishops, right? The people that are directing everybody under this cathedral-like atmosphere. And then you have the people that are the true believers. And then you have the people that just go to church on Sunday because that's what you're supposed to do to remain a member of polite society. I think you have the same thing on the opposite side, right? You have the people that are completely unapologetically anti-woke. And then you have these other people that are like, hey, we don't like what's going on here with this wokeness, and we would like to get people off of it. And I think there's a role to be played by everybody on the other side, right? There's a role to be played by people that are just shitposting, stoking the flames, right? Invigorating people like me.
I really do honestly think that the moderate that you're talking about is a dwindling species. You've got to understand. No, you've got to understand. For more than 15 years now, some 40% of the population has been referred to as domestic terrorists, rapists, or I'm sorry, not rapists, racists, homophobes, xenophobe, all the phobes, white supremacists, and everything else. They have been actively harassed by the federal government under several administrations.
Atima, I 100% agree with what you just said, but also still believe that what I said is true, right? We need the role of the person that can approach the problem to the normal person without being super inflaming. Like, those people need to exist.
Just, that's a dwindling group because the radicalization is now rapidly happening because you have 15 years of people being conditioned to hear they are awful people just for thinking a thing, and it's starting to make them angry.
Yep. You're not wrong. Like, I don't disagree with anything you just said. But I still say that, like, there's a role to be played. Like, we have to have some cool heads, and we can't, like, let's not extinguish them, right?
Okay.
It might be inevitable, but if it's inevitable, then that's where we have actual civil war. Am I wrong?
Man.
I think we might be past that, actually. I don't know. Things are looking rough, boys and girls. Fucking crazy out there.
All right, we got off on a little bit of a tangent. Let's go on with.
That was a good. It's like a jazz excursion, you know.
It was a jam session, man.
Exactly.
Look behind the curtain. The very smart people are caught up in a social milieu, and they are, on average, when they're academic, afraid to not be liked more than average. I had Peter Boghossian call me on the phone one day telling me about his very, very intelligent friends.
He's talking about within the circles, the power circles.
Well, yeah, I don't understand that need to be liked thing. Anyway.
Yeah. I feel you, man. You know?
Kind people, they're very smart people, and he said they just can't figure out how these people get sucked into the woke ideology so profoundly. And I was like, Peter, it's one variable more than any other. And then I expanded it to two immediately. But the one variable is there are people who are afraid not to be liked, and they're in a very prissy, cutthroat, snobbish social milieu where all of their professional status is tied up and looking and thinking and acting the right way, and they're very afraid not to be liked. They're not particularly courageous people, typically, as we've, I think, all seen. The other thing is that they, of course, can't ever be the person who doesn't know what's going on or is wrong or doesn't understand something. So they have to be way too open-minded. Their brains are falling out. It's no good. And so that's the beginning. I don't want to drag this out too much, but I want to explain a little bit more about how the pseudo-reality pushes itself. So I've just said with academics in particular that there are two features. There's this intellectual feature that they don't want to be wrong or not understand something, and then there's this not wanting to be disliked feature. In other words, there's a intellectual feature and there's a moral feature, or if I might phrase it more bluntly, there's a logical feature and a moral feature. So there's a logical and moral dimension. And so what I'm saying is that pseudo-realities have their own fake logic and they have their own fake morals, and they use the fake logic to make their stuff seem plausible from within, but that befuddles people from without, and academics work really hard to rationalize it and understand it, and therefore whitewash it. And then they have their own fake morality that they use to bully people morally and emotionally, and to pull them into participating in the distortions of their pseudo-reality. So this sounds very complicated because now I have these words I used. Pseudo-reality,
like, this
false
is
reality.
I have
Then
something to say that I think a lot of
paralogical
people
structure.
will see and understand. This, exactly what he's explaining, is why people like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Sean Carroll, they usually, like, at least tacitly support this stuff. is because they're academics, right? They're physicists.
Right,
They specialize in physics. But the people that are around in academia that are on the other side of the aisle are telling them that this is the right way to think about things.
Right, they're following the herd,
they're not,
right?
Yeah, they're not experts in that. They know very little about it. They only know, like, hey, read this book about it that we approved of.
Well, you know, academia is an unrealistic environment anyway. It's a pseudo reality in itself.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, outside the hard sciences, which I think I miss the main reason academia should exist. Whenever you have on the opposite side of you're sitting there and you're going to your social studies departments, and they're telling you, like, yeah, this is the newest thing on social sciences. They're no different. Like that's where you have to, like, understand. These physicists, they're no different than you and I when it comes to what we're good at, right? They're focused on their expertise, and what you have to do for understanding of ideas that aren't within your field is you defer to other experts, and they're deferring to their friends in academia, which is funny enough, it's insidious but natural.
Okay, I'm sorry. All I hear is that this is a mean girl circle where nobody has any self-esteem. I mean, that's all I'm hearing right now.
I just think that they're as smart as these people are, they're not smart enough to understand that there's reason to distrust people from other fields.
Right.
Well, no, I'm talking about the people that are, like, really afraid of not being liked that he's talking about.
Oh yeah. That's probably true as well. I was actually making a less insidious argument. Not smart enough to understand that. The less insidious argument is that I am an expert in physics and I work at a university, and that's what I do, right? But the only people I talk to on social issues are these critical theorist people, and I have no expertise in that. So what do? I defer to them because I know that they're supposed to be the experts. And I don't question it because I am not involved in that. And I just trust that they are doing things correctly. And that's where the fault is, right? Trusting that these other fields that have way less rigorous standards around the field are doing things correctly.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. There's an assumption that there's competency within the other people.
Yeah,
there's no verification going on.
Yeah, that's my less insidious theory about why even very smart people within academia that are in hard sciences somehow tend to fall into this trap of what's coming out of academia, so social sciences that has no rigorous standards behind it.
Well, and sometimes they'll even support people that are academically less than, intellectually, as long as their morals are okay. They'll help them justify. In other words, they'll pull them in the door.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, long story short.
Think about it, man. Think about admissions requirements, like to medical schools and shit. Do you really want somebody that had a lower hurdle to jump to be operating on you?
No.
That's a scary thought, man. And it ain't about what they look like. It's about, IQ. It's always baffled me the way that the whole intellectual thing of this deal has not been, addressed in a truly equal manner. I wanted to say equitable, but it's like you can't guarantee outcomes. But there's all this enabling that I see, right?
And that's what I keep seeing.
Here's what's even worse is one of the secrets James Lindsay isn't telling you is that there's people in STEM that are STEM promoters that do not share these ideas, and they've just been quiet about it.
Mm-hmm.
that are being quiet about it exactly for the reasons he's saying, where they're just like, if I come out about this, I'm going to be blackballed from even the field that I'm trying to study.
Excommunication.
So I have to just keep my mouth shut if I want to keep doing my work within the walls of the university.
Well, okay, and I think that's the thing that maybe Lindsay is coming up light on, is he's talking about this as if there's still some freedom of expression within academia.
The temples of Syrinx.
I mean, honestly,
the first place they installed the pseudo realities that James is talking about is
in academia. That's what I'm saying. It's like, we actually do have an entire generation, maybe two now, of American youth that are being gaslit into psychosis so they can be communist. It's literally happening. That's what these pseudo realities are. That's how they do this. They use gaslighting.
And it's interesting that the term gaslighting didn't even exist until like about 15 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
Meaning what it means, right? I mean, it was actually a phenomenon, of course, but to use that term, gaslighting, I've always thought that was novel. Because it's a result of the whole deal. Remember, 1 + 1 = 3.
Wow, that is a novel idea. I mean, I know 2 + 2 can equal 5, but 1 + 1 = 3. Man, we should spend.
Hold on now. Tim and Carl
debating on whether or not that can be correct.
Tema plus Carl is equal to 3 before. Couple times.
Twice. It's now 1 + 1 = 4.
So you know what I'm saying. That's Southern. That's the Southern joke there.
That's what that was.
No shit. All right, y'all.
Para-logic. Para means beside. So it's a fake logic that lies beside logic. And I called it a paramoral structure. These aren't my own words, by the way. I read them. They come out of literature. Paramorals paramorality is a fake non-morality that lies beside and copies, looks like a morality, but it's not a morality. A long time ago, I actually didn't have a word for this, and I said it's a framework morality. And the cultural relativists can't handle this. They think that everything is one of these. They think that every morality is a paramorality. They're all just framework moralities. They're within one cultural framework, that they're morals, and you have no way to judge. And then you have people like religious people, and then kind of moral realists who say things like, no, there is an objective morality. What its values are may or may not be known. The religious people tend to think that they are known and that they're given by God, and that by studying scripture and whatever else there is revelation, that people can better understand that. Myself, for my own part, I would say that they are scientifically discoverable, or they're values anyway that are derivable from scientifically discoverable facts about the ranges of human experience. The set of human beings is a constrained system. There's only so many things that happen within an organism that's still human. You get far enough away and you're a chimpanzee, and it's not that far. So it's a relatively, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of different things, there's a lot of cultures that rise up, there's a lot of social structures within all of the human variation. We can celebrate how diverse we are. But the truth is, every one of us is a lot closer together, and I mean that on a neurobiological level, than any chimpanzee. And chimpanzees are our nearest neighbor. And there's no ambiguity, but none. Nobody's confused. So it's a constrained system. So there are some set of truths about human beings in that constrained system that say how humans work and how humans don't work, how humans respond positively and how humans respond negatively, what causes hurt, what causes flourishing, what causes pain, what causes suffering, what causes successful social orders, what causes social orders that collapse and fail. There are lots of variables in that. I'm not saying it's a simple thing, but it is a constrained thing, and there are describable truths that define an objective set of describable set of objective truths that constrain that, and morality must be subject to that set of objective truths. So I'm not going to say, there's necessarily objective single morality. Sam Harris fell into that trap with the moral landscape, I think, a bit, but I think I'm basically saying the same thing he's saying in different words, and hopefully a little more carefully. Nevertheless, cultural relativists think everything's this paramorality. They think every single one can't be judged. There's nothing above it. Every single one is just beside another. And I'm saying that's bollocks. And in particular, what I'm saying is that these pseudo-realities they create literally a false morality. Religious people would be very much more adept at spotting it when they don't get sucked into the cult nature of it. And so I have these complicated words. Pseudo-reality compares to reality. False reality versus real reality. The false reality is like a facsimile. It is a simulation. It is the same thing. Very postmodern stuff happens here because the postmodernists were kind of seeing this. They weren't nuts. They weren't just nuts and evil. They were seeing some of this. And I think there's actually a lot of trenchant analysis that could be extracted, especially from people like Foucault and Baudrillard in this moment, maybe even Lyotard talking about the postmodern condition, to examine the nature of these pseudo-realities. What the problem is that they didn't distinguish those from reality. They were too relativist for that. So within pseudo-reality, we have a fake logic that I call a paralogic. Who else has used that word? Well, you have Jean-Francois Lyotard, which I just named, the postmodernist in the postmodern condition, talks about a paralogy. P-A-R-A-L-O-G-Y. Change that Y on the end to I-C, and you have paralogic. Long and short of what a paralogy is a lie. It is a false logic. It's like bizarro logic. It's like bizarro world logic where 2 + 2 can equal 5, as we've seen. Although in reality, it cannot equal 5. It can only equal 5 by bending the rules, by there is no spoon. Ooh, that kind of bullcrap. It only works in the Matrix. So paralogic just means a bogus logic. And in this case, the bogus logic is, in the woke case, when I say this case, in general, I should say that the paralogic doesn't have to be consistent because it's a paralogic. Logic has to be consistent. Logic has to obey the law of non-contradiction. Paralogics can't because they aren't logical. They are logical within. It's kind of like I've described wokeness as like a comic book universe where if you know the rules of the universe, or the Matrix, why not? If you know the rules of the universe, you can do things. Superman can fly. Spider-Man can shoot webs and has super strength and all these different things. You pick your favorite character. But you can't mix them up. You can't make Spider-Man fly. Superman doesn't shoot webs. Each comic book universe has its own kind of internal logic. And that's a paralogic. And in this case, the paralogic is always set up, in the woke case particularly, it's always set up around this idea that systemic power is the fundamental operating system. So a paralogical statement in critical race theory, which is the first assumption of critical race theory, is that racism is the ordinary state of affairs in society, not an aberration from them. Therefore, the question is no longer did racism take place, but how did racism manifest in this situation? That is a paralogical claim. The logic is not the regular logic. It's let's begin with the assumption of racism and then look for it, rather than let's not assume something is there until we see evidence for it.
Okay, so we need to pause right here.
And then, so pseudo-reality has a paralogic and it has a paramorality.
Certainly.
Okay, there's a big key thing. What he just pointed out is literally the opposite of fundamentally being an American with our legal system.
Expand.
Yeah.
Okay, innocent until proven guilty. He just put it on its ear.
No. You're correct, because it's the entire woke narrative has this idea of original sin where you're guilty until proven innocent,
which is in direct opposition to everything that America stands for.
Well, and when it comes to racism specifically, you can't actually ever say you're innocent. The only way you can be forgiven is to admit to your racism.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I said, that is...
It's even worse. It's like, it's I was just compounding what you said. Like, it's that bad.
Yeah, it's the opposite. It's antithetical to everything that a Western civilization functions under.
Yeah, well, and they're also rewriting the history of Western civilization under liberal ideology, in which we actually discovered racism, right? We discovered that it was wrong. We made steps to fix it. Like, before any of this, the Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964. The postmodernists didn't really even start coming up with their ideas until the 70s. And the applied postmodernists didn't come around until the 80s. And they really didn't even become popular until the late 2000s. Right? So we made all that progress under liberalism, yet they look at liberalism as this underlying ideology that failed to address racism. When in reality, objectively true, right? You can look back and be like, liberalism is the only ideology that made any headway into solving race relations.
Indeed.
And for the people that just joined, you need to remember on this stream, we use the word liberalism, not in the context of the colloquial term that it means left. We mean the ideology that derived from Enlightenment thinkers and led into like the American Revolution. We're talking about liberal
Industrial
thinkers
Revolution,
like we're talking about thinkers
technology.
like Jefferson, John Locke, right? Like those people.
Indeed.
I don't think I actually have to remind our audience, but I feel
No.
the need to, just in case there's some people that are like, what are you talking about, liberalism? Liberalism is a mental disorder. And I was like, no, we're not using the word that way. It
So-
is not referring to the American left. It's referring to this idea of individual liberty and conflict resolution based on objective truth.
So basically, Excel's having an autism moment.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
I'm an autist in my
Whoa.
house. They don't bother me. Do your tangent.
That's
Get down with your bad self.
I just felt the need to remind people that because we use the word liberalism a lot on this stream, or I do, but I'm not referring to it in the colloquial
it's
sense that
right.
a lot
It's
of
good to
people understand.
keep the definitions fresh, because philosophically, definitions will differ at times. Especially when you're talking about what word I'm looking for, like without using religious terms, that type of
Secular?
I guess secular thought processes, philosophies. Let's go. All right, we'll keep going.
What paramoralities are a moment ago, they are a false morality. And in this case, it is the liberationist paradigm. If you read Cynical Theories, where Helen and I wrote about the postmodern knowledge principle and the postmodern political principle, postmodern knowledge principle that we described mostly is the paralogic. It's not quite, because there's a little bit more to it, of wokeness. The postmodern political principle that there are these systems of power that must be overthrown. We have to act in what Jonathan Rauch called a radically egalitarian way to make up for the sins of the past, for the injuries of history. That is their paramorality. That's why there are always these moral double standards. That's why the girl got kicked out of UT for saying the N-word in kind of a cutesy way, because white people absolutely can't say that word, but it's okay if black people do. That's why these double standards always exist, because the paramorality takes into account the power dynamic.
That's right. He teaches at University of Tennessee in Knoxville. I forgot about that.
Yep.
Yeah, but that girl did get she did get yeeted from reality.
Well, you know what James did?
We're
What?
singing a song.
Yeah, you know what James did on that situation?
Mm-mm.
He actually got her a full ride scholarship to another university that wasn't going to put up with that shit.
Oh wow.
Oh, good.
Yep, he saw it and was just like, "That's fucking ridiculous."
Yeah. Good for him. You got to battle that woke shit, people. You got to fight it. You got to fight it.
Well, it turns out there's people out there that are willing to deal with it. It's just they seem few and far between. It seems futile just because in pop culture it's dominating us.
All right, here's the deal, y'all. The current atmosphere, all right, that we as a society are in is almost like identically reminiscent to Weimar Germany. And, I don't know. Do you think...
It honestly makes me think of the 1830s more than anything else.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
the reason I'm trying to I want to qualify is because I think that I think it's going to create a left, a right leaning backlash that they're creating the beasts that they're going to fight. I guess they're creating their dragons, right? Because I think out of the right, there's people are gravitating towards a more I don't want to say bellicose, but a more hardcore. They're being driven there.
People with great patience tend to be people that are capable of great violence.
I think it's also inaccurate to say this is not actually. This particular issue is not right versus left. It's turning into liberal versus anti-liberal.
That's why I
and
keep
more
harkening back to
people
the
are aside.
1830s.
Well, like, think about, like, one of the first people to get, like, blackballed for attacking this, which is Sargon of Akkad. And you can think what you will of him, right? But for the most part, like, he was against all this stuff. But, like, when it comes to what I think government should do and what he thinks government should do, we are leaps and bounds behind. But he's still liberal, right? Like, he still understands the liberal ideology.
Yeah.
His whole thought process is within that context. We can have rational discussions about how much government should do under the context. But he got blackballed from polite society for being somebody that's like, I love universal health care. I like housing projects, right? Like, I like all these big government programs that are for social welfare, but I hate the woke left. And he got blackballed from polite society. Yep.
He's far more right-leaning now, though, by the way.
Of course.
He's much more American libertarian.
Well, and funny enough, you push people that way whenever you do exactly what we're talking about, where you ban people from polite society. The only people left to accept you are the people that are more right. It's the same with Tim Pool, actually, right? Like, think about how Tim Pool used to be like, I'm a milquetoast fin center leftist, and all of a sudden he's like listen to him talk about universal health care now, right? It's something he used to say, I universally support. And now he's just like, well, I kind of like the idea. However, I think there's too many problems in America to make it work.
Well, I mean,
which is actually kind of like a right-leaning position where we're just like...
Well, think about it, though. Once you start buying into the capitalist deal and you get a job and you start paying taxes, your mind shifts that way.
Yeah,
right?
Maybe
I mean,
so.
You know, I became less liberal when I started fucking having to pay taxes, right?
Yeah.
It's a
Hell
wake
yeah.
up call, right? So
I was 15 when I started paying taxes.
yeah, well, you know, Churchill said if you're not liberal when you're 20, you have no heart, and if you're not conservative at 40, you have no mind.
Yeah, you have no
Right. Well, I like that quote. Churchill was pretty fucking cool. Even though he was a bipolar drunk, that's not on him.
No,
he still was outstanding. Oh yeah.
So
he backhand people
they
if he was feeling
deserved it. You know they deserved it. Maybe.
You know,
I don't
probably. You know, I've met some housewives. You know.
Mm.
Anyway.
Was it while men in New Jersey hit their wives? Because they
How
don't
much
fucking listen.
How much of this video do we have left? We should get through it.
Oh, dude. We got about, let's see. Come on. Show me. Oh, we got.
But we have only done half of it?
Look, yeah, check the. You should be able to see it now.
Oh, shit. We still got like 35 minutes left.
Well, we're doing it at 1.25 speed. There's actually
Probably
at the
a little
very
bit.
end of the video, there's not much to it, and we can stop.
What we can do is
like the last quarter of it. So there's like 20 minutes of substance left.
All right, let's roll.
In every single thing, and then it bullies people who don't participate. Don't want to have sex with a trans woman? Must be that you hate them. Can't possibly be anything to do with your attraction. The fact that you are, say, a straight man and that you are not interested in somebody with a penis can't be anything like that. That's reality. But we're over here in pseudo-reality, and the paramoral explanation for why you don't want to do that is because you're a bigot. And so this is why everybody's a bigot. Everything's racist, everything's sexist, everything's misogynist, everything's transphobic, everything's homophobic, everything's ableist. And you can find it in anything because the paramoral structure requires it. Paralogical structure explains it in terms of their theory. Their theory is their paralogical form. It's how they explain and justify in this kind of like topsy-turvy, kind of nonsense, broken logic. I hope that breaks down these three words: pseudo-reality, paralogic, paramorality, are less complicated than the essay makes it seem if you're not familiar with them. False reality that has a broken logic that explains how it works, and a broken moral system that enforces its rules. It's offense-based rules in this case, with the woke in particular. So the goal is to use the paralogic to get people to buy in to the pseudo-reality, to use the paramorals to bully them. And you will see this happen with the woke all the time. They do the same thing. They come in, they try to give you the stupid systemic explanation. It makes no sense. You know it makes no sense. And unless you're a very smart person, you don't fall for it. You don't try to rationalize it. You just see this is nonsense. And the second you call it nonsense, they come out and call you a racist. Boom. There's the paramorality. They all of a sudden try to beat you over the head with some moral claim that only makes sense in the pseudo-reality. You're not a racist in reality because you disagree with them. You're a racist in pseudo-reality because you disagree with them. The woke pseudo-reality, you are a racist because you didn't agree with critical race theory. So you can see the pattern again and again. They try to pull you in, blind you with bullshit, as it were, with the paralogic, and then the next thing you know, you don't go along, wham, out comes the moral ruler across your knuckles. And if it doesn't work on you, they go to your employer. If it doesn't work on your employer, they go to your, some administrator. If they keep going higher and higher, they go after your family, they go after your friends, they put you on social media, whatever it happens to be. See how it works? And what they're trying to do is go up the chain until they find somebody who can get sucked into that paramoral demand. They're sucked in by that paramoral bullying, really. And the paralogical explanation can then be deployed to explain why what you did was evil. And bam, the person's participating in pseudo-reality. And the reason you're getting fired is because your boss got bullied or tricked or both into participating in pseudo-reality instead of staying in reality with you. That's what's going on. That's what's going on. So when you hear the famous story about the communist greengrocer, where you've got the sign about the communism and supporting the state or whatever it is, and nobody really believes it, but they all know if they're the first person to take, if they all took their signs down, they couldn't do anything. But whoever the first person is to take their sign down is going to get shot. That's how it works, and that's how these psychopathic pseudo-realities almost always become violent, because eventually it's the only way to enforce enough people to participate. What you do is you have a small core of genuinely psychopathic individuals. You lure in a wider core of mentally unwell, susceptible people who become fellow travelers and actually probably increase their degree of mental illness as they dive into the pseudo-reality and participate more in it. You create around that a bigger set of people who are sympathetic to either the paralogical explanations. They gain a critical consciousness, as it's phrased, or they become woke, as it might be called. They awaken as communists. They awaken as cultists. They're given, that cult awareness. Those people become sympathizers. They are trapped once they do so within the pseudo-logic and the pseudo-morality, in particular the pseudo-morality. They know if they defect, they're screwed. Their whole social network is going to turn on them. They know. And they've already bought in. Notice this, they bought into that. This is so important. They have bought into that paramoral structure. They believe that it is required. They no longer have proper morality. They are now in the paramorality. So to be a good person in their minds means that they have to participate. So if you think of it like physicists would, they're in a deep potential well. And getting them out of that potential well requires a tremendous perturbation. Something terrible has to happen. They have to be just absolutely shocked. They have to be dragged out. They have to be separate. Ideally, in all culty programming, they have to be separated from the cult, which continually reinforces that. And so they're trapped. That's the sympathizer ring kind of around the properly mentally unwell. And I will claim that sympathizer ring, that they are making themselves less and less mentally well as well. They are becoming increasingly psychopathic the more they participate in that logic. Now, I'm not meaning that they become clinically or essentially psychopathic. They're functionally so. They are not well, but if they separate from the cult logic, while it might have done some damage, they will probably go back to normal, or most of the way or all the way. Around that ring, you have a bunch of people that are held hostage. They don't know how not to participate in it because they don't want to get called a racist, for example, or they don't want to be accused of having bourgeois attitudes, as it might have been. Or if we go back to like the Pharisees, they don't want to be accused of being, outside of the law. They don't want to be accused of being in league with the devil, if we're talking about the Puritans. They don't want to have, Jewish sympathies or whatever it would have been with the Nazis. So you have this group of people that are held hostage. And my claim is that you have this very small contingent of legitimate psychopaths in the middle, a ring still relatively small of mentally unwell people who participate in the pseudo-reality created therein and who push it. Those, from what I have read, those two groups together very stably in all such circumstances probably total up to about 6% of the functional population. We see that kind of with the hardcore progressive activists with that hidden tribe study was at 8%. So we're in that range. The sympathizers, there's your extra couple of percent. The sympathizers are they're a bigger ring, but my claim is that once you get enough people who are in that sympathizer or core psychopathic center, plus enough people of the population who are captured by the paralogical structure, or more importantly, the paramoral structure, and don't know how not to participate, then you have a sufficiently big critical mass of the population to tip it over into totalitarianism run by that party in the middle who are psychopathic. That's what I'm saying is the dynamics. When I said that the title of this is Psychopathy and the Origins of Totalitarianism, that's it right there. And the way to avoid it is to refuse to participate. Is you have to, that held hostage group has to go away. The sympathizer group has to be evaporated. The broken people in the middle, the fully woke, are in a bad place. most of the people you know who you consider to be woke are in the sympathizer. They are believers. They're trapped within it, but they're not functionally broken like the people at the core. Many of whom are actually not even believers at all. Some are absolute believers. Many of whom are just grifters because psychopathic pseudo-realities are open to people who don't... Who cares which morality, which logic you use if it's to your advantage if you're a psychopath? So the opening for grifters in pseudo-reality is super high. They don't care if they participate in reality or pseudo-reality. It's all just whichever gives them the most advantage. That's the definition of being psychopathic in the clinical sense that my detractors about this essay said that I don't understand. Okay, so kind of one last point about this is that if you are a Nietzsche fan, I'm not, but if you're a Nietzsche fan, when he talks about genealogy and morals and he talks about the slave morality, we have this kind of inverted perversion of the existing moral structure. That's what the paramorality is. The paramorality is Nietzsche's slave morality. It's just a different word for it. But slave morality doesn't really, I don't know, it's never resonated with me. This idea of a fake morality, false morality that lies next to real morality worked better for me. So pick your favorite words. I don't care. But just kind of as an aside, if you're a Nietzsche person, there you go. So I have this fun sentence in the essay. I'll just kind of throw in here. I'll read it. It's a smart one. People were making fun of it, so I have to say it here too. I said, put classically, paralogic is pathos subverting logos, and paramorality is pathos dominating ethos. So you can go meditate on that and see if you can figure out what it is. But my next sentence is not so complicated. No society can be healthy or long survive in such a state, meaning when those have become dominant. False reality will not suffice, because no matter how hard we believe anything, reality is what you run into when your beliefs are false. If we try to occupy a false reality, whether it's communism, whether it's neoconservatism, we're toast. It will catch up to us eventually. I make the claim in my essay that the nature of a false reality and a false morality and a false logic is that the party, that functional core in the middle, who is designed to benefit the most from this pseudo-reality for whom it is constructed, will become increasingly capricious. They will increasingly change the rules. They will increasingly set up the paralogical system and the paramoral system so that they get to decide what is true and what is right as they go, because it makes it almost impossible to keep up with what they're doing. It gives them more and more power, which is the point. Like I said, I've kind of said it here a few times, the traditional modern name given to the cabal of corrupt experts that's running the pseudo-reality is the party. If you go read communist, if you go to Marxist.org and just go and read what they think about, they actually it's kind of like I have this encyclopedia I'm making on new discourses of woke terminology. They have an encyclopedia or dictionary of all kinds of communist relevant terms, and if you go read their entry for Stalinism, they tell you this. They believe that. So here's what happened with Stalin. Marx's revolutions weren't happening. Eventually, what you had, and I guess I said Stalin, but we got to go back further to the Bolsheviks and Lenin, because it's really Leninism. Stalin was Leninism 2.0. Mao is Leninism 3.0. Woke is Leninism 4.0. There you go. But we don't have to just linger in communism because it happens other places. But what happened was that the Bolsheviks were technically part of the bourgeoisie. Marx predicted, I should say, just to back up, that the proletariat would eventually have class consciousness. In other words, they would awaken to his paralogical or description of the Marxist pseudo-reality. They would, you see what I'm doing here? So they would have class consciousness that would cause them to awaken. They would then lead a proletarian revolution that would then overthrow the bourgeoisie, the capitalists, and establish the first socialist and eventually communist utopia. That's his pseudo-reality. Class consciousness was part of the paralogical form. All those arguments that they made are all in the Marxist paralogic. And then eventually you started to have people getting browbeaten for having, capitalist sympathies or bourgeois attitudes, and there's your paramorals. This has persisted all the way up through Mao, whether it was from Lenin, Stalin, or Mao. So what you had with the Bolsheviks, you had this new idea that certain members of the bourgeoisie, very basically rich people, upper middle class, underaccomplished, dyspeptic malcontents, probably with somebody who had a head injury level psychopathy named Lenin at their head, they were going to use their privilege as bourgeois people, but who had allegedly the proletarian class consciousness as communists, to usher in. They were going to shepherd people through those stages because the proles weren't doing it on their own. So all of a sudden you have this bourgeois party that forms. It's going to usher people through. This is a two-stage process. Stagism is what they call it in the Marxist literature. And they say that that's why it failed, because stagism doesn't work. If you have a bourgeois party, eventually it's just going to be bourgeois rule, and they're going to bring in bourgeois values, and the bourgeois values are going to screw everything up. And notice they just had, it's like they pulled their ripcord and the canopy popped open and the thing shot out, and oh yeah, Lenin and Stalin weren't real communism. They pulled the escape hatch as the jet crashed into the ground, so they don't have to take any responsibility for their actions. Why not? Of course, because it's pseudo-reality. It's not reality.
Real communism.
Consequences happen in reality. They don't happen in pseudo-reality. So the paralogic and the paramorals continue, and they just figure out a new way to frame them. And so you go from Lenin to Stalin, from Stalin to Mao to woke. That's what's going on here. So their claim is that the party came into...
I said, in our private chat that we weren't going to pause. do want to pause there because I think that's awesome. Like, you went from Lenin to Stalinism, from Stalinism to Mao, from Mao to woke. And I'm sorry, that chain of events is very accurate. That is what we're dealing with.
Terrifyingly.
It's almost like an exponential thing, right?
I don't know if it's an exponential thing or if we're just watching the laws of atrophy at work.
Indeed.
Yeah, like, I mean, apparently this time though, they're going to get it right.
Yeah.
This time will be real communism.
It'll be the good kind. Really?
Yeah.
There's actually actually I'll share it with you guys in our private chat, but there's an amazing essay written, and it was written in 1996 by a professor that spent almost his entire career, and he was like fucking like 64 when he finally wrote this, and it was called "What Did We Know and When Did We Know It?" And he was talking about how he was a socialist professor that throughout the years he continuously supported every single socialist or communist revolution, thinking that was going to be the one. And when it ended in a bloodbath, he excused it and moved on to the next one. And he just kept accepting it until his latest years, where he finally looked back and said, like, this was our problem. This was our fault. Like, we were excusing all the atrocities and the flaws of the ideology that we were trying to explain because it goes completely against human nature. I'm going to share that with you guys. That actually might be worth its own stream.
I think I've read it.
Yeah, the fact that it was written in 1996, like, you're just like, you could read it today and it could have been written yesterday. And it would be equally as true.
So there needs to be a 12-step program for communists. Is that what I'm hearing?
No,
basically.
Absolutely not. There needs to be nothing but Ayn Rand's statement of one can hide from reality, but one cannot hide from the consequences of reality.
Yeah, that's actually probably accurate. This guy did like a complete self-reflection on everything he supported, and he looked back at what happened when he supported it, and he was just like, and this is a continuous thing. Bernie Sanders is a great example, even now, right? A true socialist. Look what he said about Venezuela 6 years ago.
And it's amazing that his life, he's got all this wealth he's amassed now at the end of his life, right? When he spent his whole life talking about being, lower class, lower middle class. And now he's literally one of the people he's been rebelling against his whole life.
You notice he's dropped the millionaires. He's only against billionaires now.
Oh, that's right. Jesus.
And then all of a sudden, it's like, no, look, I believe in inflation. Right? It's a real thing.
Dude, just print more money, man. Just print
That's what they're doing.
Print it.
Make sure you give it to that female gender study for Pakistan too.
Yeah.
Yep, right into the nuclear reactors is where that money's
Fuck, just don't even remind me.
Yeah.
No shit, dude. No shit, man. All right, let's roll.
The party exists to shepherd people through into the pseudo-reality. And so I'm going to tell you that people like Black Lives Matter are the party that are trying to shepherd people. The trans rights activists are the party who are trying to shepherd people into the woke Leninist 4.0 revolution. That's what's happening. That's the story of right now. And it is a pseudo-reality. It is not a real reality. And we will all pay the piper at the end. And they do it by bullying people, by saying that they have white privilege. That's the equivalent of having a bourgeois attitude. Whatever else. Pick your favorite one. We're familiar with all these arguments. So anyway, the party is going to come into existence to try to do this. I am going to make the case that the socialists are wrong, that they believe that Marx was ultimately right, and that if it weren't for people like Lenin and Stalin screwing it up, then we'd be in good shape. That real communism has never been tried. My contention is that actually Lenin figured something out that's correct, which is that no, the proletariat's not going to do any of this overthrowing nonsense at all, ever. And you have to have this literally petit bourgeois bullshit cabal that decides they're going to create a pseudo-reality and shepherd everybody through it using paralogical arguments and paramoral bullying And so you're always going to have, this is why it collapses in such terrible, grandiose ways every time. And this is why the woke problem will do the same thing if it's allowed to. It will lead people straight into the blender, just like every other freaking attempt at this thing. It's not real. Okay. So the essay goes on. I don't want to like drag this out because the essay's many thousands of words. The essay goes on to argue from this point that this is fundamentally psychopathic. The pseudo-reality depends on and is driven by psychopathy. The people who will become the party are going to be the ones who are the most psychopathic by design. They will be. That's who started the thing. That's who's going to grift the thing the hardest. That's who's going to buy into the thing the hardest, because the whole pseudo-reality is suited to enable their psychological problems. We have to live in their pathologies, their delusions, their problems. And the whole point of the pseudo-reality is to force everybody to do that. And what they do is they affect this by making other people temporarily or functionally psychopathic in the same way. We call these people today woke. Kind of drive that point in. I said in the essay, eventually a normal person subjected to these circumstances ceases to be normal. This occurs when they awaken to a full consciousness in the pseudo-reality. In other words, they become woke. Did they awaken a class consciousness? That's Marxism. Did they awaken a critical consciousness? That's the neo-Marxist version. Have they awoken in the sense of being woke? That's the woke version. That's what's happening here. So eventually, a normal person subjected to these circumstances ceases to be normal. This occurs when they awaken to a full consciousness in the pseudo-reality. At that point, this is key, at that point they will have reached a place where, from their perspective, pseudo-reality is reality and reality is the pseudo-reality. That is, they will be functionally psychopathic themselves, enthralled to the paralogic of the pseudo-real delusion, and with the bifurcated and narrow ethics and moral virtues that operate under its paramoral system. In other words, they will become psychopathic. Another way to put that is that they become part of the cult. And I said that it's presumably temporary. But when you lose the ability to distinguish reality from pseudo-reality, you're in a bad place. And this is why it's so hard. You know, we wrote this book, Peter and I wrote this book, How to Have Impossible Conversations. And people are like, you can't have conversations with a woke. How can anybody have a conversation with a woke? And in the book we say, well, to have a conversation, you have to be willing to converse. Well, this is something that Piper raises. I mentioned Joseph Piper is where I got the term pseudo-reality, the Catholic philosopher. In his essay in 1970, Abusive Language, Abuse of Power, he points out that it's not actually possible to have a conversation. It is not a conversation when people occupy pseudo-reality. You cannot have a conversation between reality and pseudo-reality. You're not on the same footing. And so a conversation between those people is not possible until a cult deprogramming has occurred.
Stop.
They are operating with a paralogic that describes pseudo-reality, not logic that describes reality. And their morals are a paramoral system that are captured in that only make sense in pseudo-reality. They're only virtuous in pseudo-reality. They're not virtuous in reality. And so you have nothing, whether logical nor moral, to appeal to reach common ground. And so this is where in the essay I say one might refer to the spread of a psychopathic ideology and its pseudo-reality by now more familiar phrases like the madness of crowds, nodding to Douglas Murray, or even socio-political zombification. A lot of people have noticed, and they've said this whole zombie apocalypse thing is what's going on. The way out is to cut those two threads, the paramoral framework and the paralogical structure. If you can sever the thread...
Just break all the things. All the things. Fuck it.
Those are the two threads that hold up pseudo-reality. There's a...
I know. It's the best one we've ever shown.
Logical thread or an intellectual thread, that's their paralogic, and there is a moral thread, that's the paramorality. If you can sever one or both, especially both of those threads, if you can call their fake logic for fake logic, if you can call their fake morals for being immoral, then you can sever the threads for people who are only lightly indoctrinated or are not yet indoctrinated and are just held hostage. And when they lose enough support and no longer have critical mass, they can't affect their stupid revolution, and we can get out of this mess. The trick is really almost as simple as realizing, just seeing this for what it is. It is psychopathy. It is crazy pants. And it is morally evil. And I mean it, evil. These people can be very well-meaning, they can care, da-da-da-da-da, they can be sincere believers, blah, 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 but they are participating in a psychopathic, logical, and moral system. And when you can see that, when you learn to see that, then you can cut those threads, and fewer and fewer and fewer people will participate, and then they have no critical mass, and they can't pull a revolution because they're just troublemakers.
Fucking hammer home.
That's refusing to bow is, for example, one of the ways to resist the paramoral. They come after you, they call you a racist, they demand an apology, you don't apologize. You just don't.
Exactly.
You refuse to apologize.
It's that simple, y'all.
Yep.
Why do you think I won't denounce any riot at all ever again? I won't denounce a protest. I won't denounce any of it, because denouncing anything is fucking useless at this point.
Like, one of the things he said is, like, nobody watching here is going to disagree, right? But you need to convince your friends, like, don't apologize. Don't apologize for not feeling sorry for something you didn't do.
Right. It's insane. It literally is insane is what he's saying. That's the whole message.
And if somebody expects you, well, that's the entire premise that, you know, systemic racism is this thing and there's all these privileges and stuff. It's, you need to feel bad for a thing I'm assuming exists. And that entire premise is very insulting to the simple mind.
Yeah, like, if we have time, I have like a little story about systemic racism.
Well,
it's tell after the stream.
Right. It's just like a child believing in Santa Claus, right? It's a oh wow. Okay.
I don't know. I think teaching kids to believe in Santa Claus has more to do with teaching your kids how to save up and look to the future.
But no, I'm talking about full grown adults. You know, it's like
I get a reads thing where you teach people to believe in something that, like, it might have some connection to reality, but it, like, ultimately it doesn't, right? Like, there's a better thing to teach.
Right.
They come after you. They come after your business. They say you need to do this. You need to issue this statement. You don't. I'm not going to participate in this. They call you a racist, and you say, call me whatever you want. I'm not going to participate in this. They say that you're, that's even more racist, and you say, call me whatever you want. I'm not going to participate in this. It's not true. It's not real. It's not moral. It's not helping. I'm not participating. The whole game is to get you to give up one form of authority or another, whether it's, I know this is a big word, whether it's epistemic authority, in other words, that you know what you're talking about, or whether it's moral authority, that you can feel competent, that you're a good person. The whole game, if you've read Shelby Steele's White Guilt, you understand the moral authority argument. He says it's the whole thing there. White guilt is the tool by which they evacuate moral authority from white people and manipulate them into enabling black power. That's Shelby Steele's argument in White Guilt. You should read this book. It's very important. Same thing happens with very smart people. Is they try to make you feel like you're the one who doesn't understand something. You don't even know the definition of racism. It's systemic now. You don't even understand. You don't think in a systemic way. You're not thinking. You're just thinking of very basic individual things. You're not thinking of the more complex and sophisticated. So you see, they're undermining your epistemic authority, or they throw around these stupid words that they make up or twist the definitions of and say, well, you don't.
Yeah, it's like, blow that shit out your ass, man.
Yeah.
Like epistemic authority. Let's replace that with, like, what your rational brain can just understand to be true, right? Like,
I am too smooth to understand.
You understand things, and they're trying to tell you that these things that, like, you feel like you have a grasp on logically, and, like, you work it through your head, and it's shit you probably worked through your head 1,000 times. I Ray just earlier in the stream said he had to fucking work some shit through his head constantly to become actually not racist, right? Not in this critical theory version of racist, right?
Exactly.
So you've worked all this shit through your head, and that is your epistemic authority, right? That's what we're talking about.
This comes from within, correct? Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
and
not external.
They're trying to undermine that.
Exactly. They want you to make it external. They want you to replace yourself with the state, right? Your true self. Where the state will make all your decisions for you. We've taken care of everything. The words you read, the songs you sing, the pictures, they give pleasure to your eye.
And it's funny because on this stream, we never actually used the state as a thing, right? That's more you and Becca's stream.
Yeah.
But they overlap so hard. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I've watched enough of those streams, and you've done enough of those streams for, like, God damn, dude, all the shit that I'm watching on Excel stream and all the shit I'm doing with Becca, they overlap so hardcore.
Well, and over and over again, it's the same fucking thing. It's just like, I've poured sugar into the tank and the car still won't start. I keep pouring sugar in the tank and the car still won't start. Why? And it's just like, it's flawed, and you need to abandon it, man. Abandon that shit, and look inside, man, because that's where you're gonna find your answer.
Well, it's just, let's go to the goddamn quarter. Just let go of the goddamn quarter. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's like a raccoon trap. Just let go of the fucking quarter. That's all you have to do. And they won't let go of the goddamn quarter.
No, well, they've been constantly reinforced that you know that it makes them better. It improves them. It improves who they are.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Just let go of the goddamn quarter.
That's right. All right, Roman.
You can't even make an argument because you don't even know what like aromantic means. You know, no, screw you. I'm not using your stupid words. No, you didn't say cisgender. Well, that's because it's not a word. And if you refute, again, the form will always be they're going to try to convince you with the pseudo-logic, and they're going to go after you with the paramorality, or sorry, with this paralogic, and they're going to go after you with the paramorality if you don't play along, if they're the smart type. Otherwise, they'll just go after you with the morality if they're the weak type, the less smart type. Yeah. And if you just don't play along, just continue to not play along, refuse to go along, that can create in itself a cascade. Look at, just think for 1 minute, any of these people that you've watched apologize to the woke for some nonsense, do you respect them more? Of course you don't. Of course you don't. Think back to that football guy. What is it, Drew Brees? Is that his name? Do you respect him more crying on TV? No, you don't. Why? Because we're extremely sensitive to that stuff. Psychologically. You see that, you think weak? No respect left for that person. You cave into the paralogical or paramoral garbage and people think that you're a fool or weak. You lose your epistemic or moral authority. The whole game is to get you to lose those. So you can't lose those. Think of those as freaking treasure that you have to guard. They're like the most valuable things in the world. You can't lose those. Okay, so if they come after your business, ignore them and keep doing your business. I understand if it's your boss, like this only works when it's you, right? This is why, of course, this COVID thing is so useful for crushing individual entrepreneurship, because now you're all subject to a boss of a big corporation that's faceless and totalitarian in and of itself. And so all of a sudden you have to play on their terms, not your own, and you can't go start your own business because we're in the middle of a pandemic. They won't let you do it. Yeah, I get it. See how it kind of goes together, don't you? We're not in a good place, guys. We're in a trap. Mm-hmm. But this is how you have to do it. You have to refuse to participate in either of those two things. You have to preserve your moral authority. You have to realize you being attacked in a paramoral system does not make you a bad person, because being a bad person is a moral statement, not a paramoral statement. They're trying to tell you that you're a bad person in upside down land. Well, bad person in upside down land is probably a good person, so calm down. Keep going. As I wrote here, and this was based straight off of some people who talked to me, I have at least 3 examples of people, 2 in a business and 1 with just a popular Twitter account, simply refusing to participate in the pseudo-reality, to utilize its paralogic or to bow to its paramorality, and to live your life as though those things are utterly irrelevant to yours, is a powerful act of defiance against an ideological pseudo-reality. It requires nothing more of a person than a convicted statement that says, this does not apply to me because it is not me, or that is not even real. Demand evidence. You want, this is another one. You want to win the paralogical game? Demand evidence. This is a racist situation. Show me proof. Well, immediately it's going to switch. They don't have proof. The cops aren't racist. The institution isn't racist. You're not a racist. They don't have proof. They're not going to be able to generate proof. So then they're going to hit you with, well, if you lived it, then you would already know. Asking for evidence is itself racist. Well,
that's why the emphasis on my truth.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not the truth.
It's lived experience.
It's about, exactly. Not the truth. No. My truth.
There you go, paramorality. And then you say, that's BS. Show me the evidence, and then I'll take it seriously. And if you just continue to do this again and again and again, stop caving in, stop apologizing, stop saying you did something wrong when you didn't do something wrong. Or as I wrote in this essay, just keep your head up and refuse to live your life on someone else's psychopathic terms, and you will do much against the budding of a totalitarian regime. You can try to refute it. That's more or less what I try to do with the new discourses here. I try to go into the paralogic and the paramorality and explain them. You have to know what you're doing. The best thing to do is to just not participate, refuse to participate. If you can get into it and explain it, that's even better. It's very hard. But if you're willing to, go learn enough about this. Go study the resources on new discourses, read other stuff, read the primary sources, read these books on critical race theory, learn what they're saying. But also be aware that that the whole point of that book is to induce you into a pseudo-reality with a paralogical form that is going to be the argument of the book that's manipulating moral feelings, moral intuitions. That's the paramorality. So I end the essay just to kind of summarize by saying you need to take the red pill. That's what dipping out of pseudo-reality means. The matrix is pseudo-reality. Taking the red pill is not a political statement. It doesn't mean that you became a conservative. It doesn't mean that you support Trump. It mostly means that you know that the media is lying to you, if you want to get real specific about it. But the political class or so-called experts or whatever,
more so than
but what it really refers to is stepping out of the pseudo-reality and being able to see it for what it is and refusing to participate in it. So I encourage you. You do not naturally become a conservative. You don't become a lunatic. You don't become a problem. You do become a deplorable. You're going to have to deal with that if you take the red pill. You should take the red pill. So that's the last thing I'll say. If enough people take the red pill, we step out of the trap. We don't end up falling into totalitarianism that is rising around this movement. And if you don't understand that that's the nature of this movement, then you don't know what's going on. There's no other way to say it. You're trapped in the paralogical structure, and you are beholden to a false set of morals, a paramoral moral system. And if you are in that situation, you don't know what's going on. You are not necessarily psychopathic yourself, but you are captured by a logic and a morality that's psychopathic, that describes a reality that's not real. So again, take that red pill. That's the last word.
All right, I'm gonna clap.
Me too, man.
The end of that was actually like pretty hilarious about taking the red pill.
You should take the red pill.
He's actually framing things in the same way that I've been trying to frame things, which is liberal, classically, versus anti-liberal. And what we're dealing with is an anti-liberal movement that is trying to take over our society.
Accelerate. It was almost like listening to fucking, like, you know, give me liberty or give me death. It had that kind of that gravitas to it.
Oh yeah, dude. Like,
it was.
Hey, Atima, remember when
I got
James
a patriotic
put out a thing about
wood off of that?
I was gonna say, wow, what a big difference in 8 months.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, remember when
No
like
shit.
James put out a thing with Trump where like he said like a lot of super negative things about it, and then he 180 and he was like, you know what? All those things that were bad about Trump, I actually think are a good thing. Like, I understand. I understand. Like, I think it is actually not a juxtaposition that you have to have. You can recognize Trump as like a very flawed person, not the person you need to be like in front of American civilization, and realize that like he's serving a purpose that needs to be happening. And all of a sudden, James Lindsay's like, I get it now. I get it.
Well, it's kind of nice to hear him say he gets it, but my question is, why does he think it's budding?
I just put a Discord link in there. If you want to hop in, pop in the green room, and we'll yank you in. If you want to share your thoughts on this, we got about a half hour. I got a half hour to play with. If you guys need to split, that's cool. You know.
I'm
Tim,
fine. I have nothing to do. So
all right. Well,
yeah, sure. Like, hop in.
I have a pair of young children that have been looking at me for
Don't worry, Ryan.
Hey, Ryan
himself is more than happy to take your place.
I was gonna say, yeah, I think I have to go make pudding.
All right, so awesome, Miss Tema, as usual. You got anything you want to share?
Yeah, you can find me on Gab. I'm really on Gab. And Ryan went away.
You got
yeah, I know I do that to people. I'm sorry.
He might have been wanting to hit on you.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure.
You can't help himself. People can't help themselves. I understand.
I know. It happens so much. I get flirted with like all the time. I can't even handle it, dude. I don't even know what to do.
Is Atima a woman on the internet?
She's a real woman on the internet.
I don't get flirted with. I don't get
She's not a trap, y'all.
Messed with or anything though, guys. I don't get hit on. It's not really a thing. I think there's like 2 or 3 people that make jokes, but other than that, I don't. So I don't know where these girls are all bitching about it.
God, I thought you were a dude, so now that I know you're an actual woman, I'll make sure to hit on you occasionally.
Gee, I feel so special now. Wow, I kind of like not getting hit on, but okay. Anyway, yeah, I've had little eyes pop in twice. I think it's time for me to go whisk pudding with a little girl with big blue eyes. So.
All right, be a mama.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Live in reality and be a mama.
Yeah,
and make
I gotta
pudding.
go do that.
Right.
Make pudding. Make pudding with my pudding.
Making pudding, man.
I'll catch y'all later. Thanks for having me on. Sorry, I gotta pop early.
Later, fam.
Later, Timma.
Bye.
I was completely joking about what I said to a Timma, but like my time on the internet, I actually have like obviously, dude, like I don't fuck with bitches on the internet. Like it's dumb, right? I think the worst things I've done is I told Becca that, well, instead of sending you dick pics via like the internet and things that are easy, I'm just gonna dox your address and send them to you directly, which I thought was a fun joke. She didn't get it at first, but I was like, yo, that's like way more effort than it would possibly take to creep somebody out.
Right.
Other than that, like, it wasn't me, but like, look, rest in peace. Like, I think people remember Sarah Hatcherby Sanders. She died from complications of a car accident.
Yeah.
Before that happened, man, she was like trying to get all over my nuts on the internet. And I was like, that's fucking weird. Becca's like, I'm still waiting for those pics.
Hey, Becca, you want to join us? We're here talking about this stuff. Hop in. Shit. We got 30 minutes. I really a little bit more, So.
Yeah, we're just talking shit.
I'm opening the Discord up to people. It was like yesterday. There was like they were banging on the door to get in. And now it's like got to put that link in again. It's right there in the chat.
We did these very academic discussions versus what you probably did last night when I was already asleep. I actually planned on joining last night, and then it was like 10:30, and I was playing Street Fighter 2 with Gaming and Yelling, and I was just like, I told Gaming, I'm going to bed, and I turned my computer off.
All right. Ooh. And dude, hashtag mom life. That's right.
Well, we got Mason wanting to join in.
All right.
We got 30 minutes before Adonis Paul goes live.
That's right. And that's what I was going to walk everybody up to the Adonis Paul hour. Well, we're not. Mason, can you hear us? I need to roll him, I think.
Dude, I swear to God, that's a problem with like every call-in show. You get a whole bunch of people that aren't used to being in Discords, and like they join in, and their shit doesn't work.
I apologize. I didn't mean to do that.
Hey, man. Oh, do you want me to bop you back out?
Yeah, Mason. What you got? Throw it at us.
I didn't even realize I joined the chat. I just joined the Discord.
Okay.
Oh, really? So you don't want to be here?
I don't mind, but...
All right. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, he's gone.
Yeah, going back to the James Lindsay stream, the whole idea of pseudo realities is one thing I don't think he did. I don't think he was trying for, but it's the political reality that they're trying to sell us. Mm-hmm. And I've been trying to explain to people that are just like, goddamn, people attacking the Capitol, that was totally wrong, and like not be politically biased about it. And I think that the way you have to look about it is within these narratives, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's if you're looking at it as like to the point where like, oh yeah, dude, doing rioting is wrong. Like, you're missing the forest for the tree, right? The trees are that we have this asymmetrical reporting and ideas about when it's okay to do political violence. And to be real honest, like, I know a lot of bad shit happened that day, but you had millions of fucking people around, right? Well, what I heard is anywhere from 300,000 to 1 million people, right? And a lot of people didn't know the storming of the Capitol was actually happening.
Yeah. I mean, they went through the whole day and didn't know it happened.
Yeah, they wouldn't have known unless they actually checked, were able to connect to the internet, which they couldn't have because they shut it down in all of DC. But yeah, like, so a lot of these people are like sitting around and they did not want that to happen. You're watching videos of the people that are actually storming the Capitol, and then you see other people that were just kind of around the Capitol in the front lines saying, no, dude, that's Antifa bullshit. We don't do that, right? But that narrative is not being told on television, right? CNN is calling it like this crazy insurrection of unarmed people that just went to the House of Representatives, and what they were trying to do was occupy it, which is funny enough. That is the occupying of government buildings. Isn't that something the left usually promotes?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Come on. We know that the double standard is their fucking oxygen, you know, and that's part of the deal. I think they realize they know that there's that part of people that, you know, recognizes that it's a false reality.
And like this whole false reality thing, like they're talking about like implementing pseudo realities, is that Trump incited all of this. All Trump did was express his opinion that the election, what like a lot of things were wrong with like the mail-in ballots, and that if you only counted legal ballots, he thought he could win. And they're saying Trump lied about the security of the election. I'm sorry, but I followed Trump long enough, and like, trust me, I think he's a bloviated idiot sometimes, but Trump usually says things that he actually believes, right? There's a difference between being wrong and saying things he actually believes. And I'm not even gonna like parse out whether or not he was correct, right? That's irrelevant. I think he actually believed that.
No, and Becca points out,
hell and go peacefully to the Capitol to make their voices heard. And fighting in the political context. When has it ever meant, regardless if you're a Democrat or Republican, when they're saying, let's fight for this, let's fight for 15, for example, right? What they mean is like, they don't mean violence, they just mean use all the political activism outlets you can use to make this happen.
Yeah, and the whole fucking $15 an hour minimum wage thing is so stupid, because all that does is that just curves everything up in the percentage of that price, right?
Yeah.
So everything will be double now. You know, what's it, $7.50?
I agree, but I think that's tangential to the idea that Donald Trump gave a speech where he said, you guys need to fight, quote unquote, and then march down and peacefully protest. Like fighting in the political context of any political rhetorical speech has always been fight within the bounds of what is legal for political activism.
Yes.
It has never meant anything else, and yet they're trying to say that.
Oh no, man! Hang him! He's a witch. Burn him! He's a witch. You know. I mean, that's literally the reaction. It's like they couldn't wait. Fucking Nancy Pelosi couldn't wait to start that impeachment. It was funny because when she did it, she started using language that she herself made illegal or you know, out of decor. Right? You're not supposed to use gendered language. And she was talking about she was a grandmother and a granddaughter and blah blah blah, and you know, family terminology needs to go, right? Because that's part of the deal too. You know, the nuclear family is a detriment to groupthink.
Yeah, I mean that's totally fucked, and that's why I said before the stream when I was talking to you that James Lindsay was talking about the pseudo-reality being installed by the woke left. But there's also a political left that is doing the same fucking thing.
Right.
And that pseudo-reality is that all of a sudden you had a few right-wingers, which was, we had Aircraft Sparky and Let's Be Frank on. They didn't even really fucking know that the storming of the Capitol was happening. There were so many people there, right?
Right.
It was a very small percentage of people, and a lot of them were against it. Yet the narrative being shown is that Donald Trump told people, basically, yeah, go commit violence in the Capitol and like beat up police officers. That's totally Donald Trump's MO, right? Fighting the police.
Right, exactly. The law and order candidate. You know, the first Republican ever be endorsed by all these like policemen unions and shit. Right?
Yeah, it doesn't make, like, the actual narrative they're trying to sell to us does not make any sense. And it's like, it's so hard because you get on Twitter, right? And I'm trying to explain to people, like, I think this is a fucking horrible idea. Like, I responded to people saying, like, there's nothing good that's going to come out of this, even while it was happening. But at the same time, I'm trying to explain to people, like, yeah, you had a whole lot of people that were pissed off. They felt like they weren't unheard. You have a media apparatus that despises them, right? And, I mean, agitators apparently were in the crowd. That became official apparently lately because you had a Black Lives Matter Glow in the Dark activist that was encouraging people to just rush the Capitol.
To bust inside.
I mean, you look at all the facts like involved in.
Well, he was the only one that was released, buddy. Did you get that? He was released.
Yeah, he was released too.
Yeah.
Like, I can't, like, I just have a hard time believing.
Did you know he won the gold medal in the Olympics? I found that out. I'm like, what the fuck? It's the truth, man. He has a gold medal. Man, jogs for wokeness.
Jeebus Christ. I don't know. I don't see anybody else fucking joining the goddamn green room. We tried, nigga. We tried. Oh shit! I said nigga. I'm banned from polite society, and I probably gonna get fired from my job. So. Thank you, sir. I will make sure to save the sound bite and explain that to my HR department.
I can hear what I'm saying because I'm fucking muted. God. That was funny too. God damn it. Well,
yeah, it was. It's really funny.
Becca's coming. Becca's heading this way.
Yeah, Becca's on her way.
Yeah. So we can hang out for a little bit longer. Dark Star. Let's say it in the chat a little bit. Madness. Thanks for coming by tonight, man. There's been some new faces. Obviously some old ones with new names because they blue. And usually if you're brand new here, you're not blue. And I have to blue you. So it looks like I didn't blow. Anyway. That sounded funnier in my head. I know, Becca.
I just want to smoke some crack and shoot some dope.
Holy smokes! Why,
Anybody
man?
With me? Anybody?
No, I can't endorse it. I can't endorse the use of illicit narcotics. I just can't endorse that.
that goes back to my punk rock days. There's a band called Choking Victim, and they have a song where it's like, "And when there's no hope, I'll smoke some crack, I'll shoot some dope." Like, they're basically talking about the end of the world.
That's right. Well, you know,
But like in that situation, it might be appropriate.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It seems like where we're at right now, intellectually, is where the Ramones were when they got together, right? If you ever listen to the Ramones lyrics, they talk about being dumb and just wanting to sniff glue and not being well and having a fucked up family and shit.
Well, like one of the things about the Ramones is like the two big players. Like Johnny, what was the other guy?
Johnny.
Anyway,
Beatty.
like they had
Joey.
opposite political ideas, but yet they came together as a band and wrote songs about the same issues.
Yeah, no, they were all anti-communism though. Yep. I guess until Marky joined them. Marky might have been a commie. I don't know. He still wears a wig. I'm just saying. And he wasn't even with the original Ramones, you know. Tommy produced them, but he only played drums on the first like 3 or 4 albums. The Bottom Me.
God, until Becky gets here, let's rock out.
With your cock out? With your sock?
I'm actually just curious. When was the last time you shared your band to your audience?
I don't know, man. It's been a while. You want to hear? They want to hear one of my band songs?
Yeah, since you do that, I need to get up and piss and stuff too. So.
All right. Well, just give me a minute. Whoa! Hold on now. Let me find it.
Becca's here.
Hi guys.
Yay, Becca! All right, cool. I don't have to pull out the music now. Thank you, Miss Becca.
You're welcome.
I think we just saved the chat.
Yeah, the only reason I was actually doing that, telling Irate to play one of your band songs, is I need to get up and piss and do some other stuff for a second. So let's get that going, and then we'll come back with Becca farther.
Boop, boop.
What's up, Becca? What did you think about tonight's show?
You want the honest
answer? Yeah.
I fell asleep for like 30 minutes.
Well, you know, James Lindsay can be like that, you know. But
it's the voice.
Yeah, he's got a kind of a drony voice, but man, he was on fire tonight, and it was really cool, man. It really was. Let me get teeth.
Yeah, my problem is if I sit still for too long, I end up falling asleep, especially when I have a soothing voice playing. So,
right,
that's my problem.
That's right. Well, that's the perfect time to, put on a soothing voice too. Is when you're getting sleepy, you just want to lay there and just, I remember back in the day, I would put on a Hard Bastard, and he would be doing his thing. Yeah, but be like. Put me right to sleep.
Richo got me to watch Hard Bastard, and yeah, if I leave him on too long, or if I'm sitting still for too long, I do tend to fall asleep.
Yeah, man, and that's a good thing. I think that he provides a safe environment, and that's what it is. It's the implied safety that.
I agree, but yeah, I enjoyed the beginning. Guy is on
Sorry about that.
Accept my pseudo reality, Becca, or be disinvited from the Polite Society.
Oh man, that was part of my old band. Yeah, that was the wrong song to put in there, man. Just saying. Find a better one. Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to play it now. Y'all won't be able to hear it anyway. Anywho.
I want to hear it. Who else wants to hear Irate Prostate's band while I go piss?
Are you not pissed yet, man? Hold on. Let me. I gotta wait.
I'm holding on to my dick to not pee. So
Well, I want to make it to where y'all can hear it too. Okay. And we'll make this a group effort here. I got to go to this hard drive. It's on a different drive altogether. Because I don't want to lose it. And I have tanked some shit before. I'll put it that way. You think I boomer this show up? You should see how. All right, here we go. Media.
I don't know. I'm of the mindset that if you don't do a boomerism at least once during your stream, then you're not doing it right.
You don't think?
I don't think. I do it all the time. Ends up being good, but I'm biased as hell, so. Who really goes with my opinion? No one.
Right? All right. So, all right, everybody, what I'm going to do here is pull this up, come back.
Is boomer yourself out?
Yeet myself. That's right. Yeet me. Sounds like eat me. Okay. All right, let's see if we can get this going here. Oh, I'll have to turn it up too. I'm gonna kick the soundtrack, the Star Trek. Keep the loop out too. All right, here we go. All right, ready?
Ready.
Whoa, wrong song. I would get struck if I played that now.
Have that.
Life is not about its pattern, shape, there is no code. The alternative is sure. What do you choose? Fluctuation keeps intense the things that you feel.
and we'll stop it there.
I like it.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the lyrics are all about, you know, if we didn't have pain, how would we know pleasure, right? How will you gauge it, right?
Yeah.
Right. Ryan himself, greetings.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Hey.
What's up, sir? I'm blaming that shit on fucking Excel.
Sounds good, man. I like it.
Well, thanks.
I don't think you do enough to like shill your old shit, right?
What?
You should. Like, you should give it to Duel to have it played on Friday Power Hour and all that stuff, just to like shill yourself out. Be like, yo, I used to be a rock star, bro.
Right. Oh, well, you know, I was telling Becca the story behind the band that almost did. Anyway, that's another story for another day and another life. And I will only tell that story on the YouTubes to Joe Rogan.
I sent you a link to a video that I think you have watched before personally, Irate Prostate, but I'm giving you permission to play it on stream where people can actually see me live.
Oh, dude, okay.
I think I've seen that. I think I've seen that video.
You have Ryan, because
it's going to take me a second. I download it and let me pull it.
You're gonna get to see my real face.
Uh-oh.
I've actually never this is one of those things like a lot of people can attest to. I've never shied away from like my actual identity on the internet. I just don't make it obvious. Like,
hey,
I
dude,
don't pronounce it or whatever.
Where's the link at?
I don't shy away from mine either.
Okay, there it is. I got it.
I use my real name and a real picture of myself, although it's a little enhanced, I guess. I almost went live today with the webcam on, but it's awkward to talk to a camera.
Oh my god, dude! I was actually I was on my team meeting for work, right? And like somebody didn't have their camera on. My boss actually likes everybody having their camera on, and I understand why he does. But then I was pointing out, I was like, I think a lot of the reason why people don't like having their camera on is because even when you're streaming with your camera on, right, you actually see yourself. Right?
Yeah.
It's very different. Like, if you could just hide seeing yourself, I think a lot of people would be way more happy with the idea of showing their actual face when they're streaming or in a Zoom meeting network.
It's a lot to get used to. I used to do a lot of streams like on PS4 and then some, and then I learned how to use OBS. And we actually used to, both Sinrise and I used to stream our faces on Insomnist.
Yep. I remember that. I also remember your awesome stream. Actually, you know what? I yelled at Sinrise way more than I yelled at you for your time on the with the drunken peasants.
Yeah, I wish I could go back and do that over, but at this point in time, I don't think I would go back on that program.
Yep. I'm sure if you could do it over, you would have made a scene and disagreed with them a lot.
What am I missing here?
I don't go into people's houses and shit on their coffee table, so.
I feel you, man.
But you no longer have that inhibition. You're like, if that coffee table deserves my fucking turn there.
Yeah, I don't know. They said I was talking to the kid that books their stuff. Like I want to say it was like 2 Februarys ago, and he was like, "Yeah, we'll get you back sometime soon." And then it just got to the point with me where it was like, "This guy, I know he's not gonna. This is not ever gonna happen, and it's okay."
Sinrise is like, we don't speak of those times.
All right. So I got it loaded up, and we're gonna open the. Let me finagle my doohickey over here.
Oh God! Like apparently I made the most perfect fair trade ever, right? So I told Irate, play one of your songs, like let people like listen to that, and then I gave Irate one of my songs, and he's gonna play it.
Yeah, right, and it's on the screen now.
He's like, bitch. Bitch, you're right. I'll do it only if you make it even.
Let me see.
You're gonna have to make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, there we go.
Hold on, man. Hold on. I'm gonna get out of the Winamp. Go to VLC. In here, so y'all can look at it right there. All right, so I'm gonna shut up.
Oh my god, you're all gonna laugh at me. I'm just gonna
Let's
let you
have a
know.
circle laugh
I'm gonna help everybody out. I'm the guy in the royal shirt.
Oh, that's not you with your sexy mouth open there and everything.
Noted.
That's not you with
With
your
the whole
sexy mouth open right there.
No, that's some emo kid.
I was just begging for your tongue to be in
That I
there.
used to
isn't
be
it,
in a
man?
band with.
Yeah, I didn't know you were in a gay band.
Yeah, we're pretty. This band is actually pretty gay, but I wrote this song, so I actually have no defenses. I wrote the song, all the lyrics. I actually wrote the music. I worked with the. I actually even wrote the guitar parts. So
Yeah, I just wrote the
except
lyrics.
for this guy. This guy fucked it all up.
Sang 'em.
This guy you're looking at, he fucked it all up. He literally played a solo a half step off.
Oh, dude.
Oh wow.
Well, yeah, but sometimes, man, that'll happen, and nobody else will notice that shit but you. Right?
Oh no, you're gonna notice.
Check it out. All right, y'all ready? That's Excel, y'all. I saw that. That's what it takes a hero. That's
Yay.
excels, man. That's some good shit there.
I like
Nice,
it.
yeah, kind of a Green Day kind of feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Excel.
Yeah, I think it's funny. Actually, like part of the reason I was like, well, first off, I wanted you to play your music. It's like that would be a great break. Then I was like, let's play my songs just to remind people that I do that. And then I posted a video just like showing I have no problem with hiding my face. I just don't use a camera very much. It's one of those things where I am just afraid enough to at least let people like know my face if they really want to try, right? If they want to look it up, like you can see it. I'm not going to put it out there constantly.
You see what Gamer Valine has put in the chat here? So just got word from boyfriend. It's bad. Dutch, Russian, Estonian, Italian, and German governments are all falling apart.
There was an article that came out that said a lot of leaders over there, I think at least the Dutch and the Estonian ones were considering resigning all at the same time.
Well, a lot of people, if I was a conspiracy theory kind of guy, I might say, well, they're getting ready for the Great Reset.
I would agree with you.
Let me see if I can pull that up. I think I retweeted something, but it might have been at the beginning of the day. It all kind of blends together. I'll let you know if I can come up with anything on that.
What kind
maybe
of-
it was just somebody pointing it out.
That bass was a Yamaha bass. Accelerate.
Yeah, no, I'm talking to nobody, not me.
Okay.
Yamaha basses, they like I had a really high end, and I picked that one out on purpose, right? I was playing in a ska band and a punk band, and the active pickups on that it's like a $900 bass. Like I'm not that they could be more expensive, but it was pretty good. But I could actually adjust the onboard active pickup settings to make it like really clingy for punk, or really like more like I guess jazzy for ska. And I would do that like just without having to change anything on my amp. I would just adjust the settings on the bass, right?
Makes
'Cause you had
sense.
the three knobs of the high. You had your high,
Right.
medium, and low adjustments on the actual bass.
Right.
So it was actually very conducive to what I was doing, which is why I bought that bass.
Nice. It's a nice bass, dude.
Yep. On this one, you see me like playing mostly with my
You
fingers.
see, you got a
but,
Fender Precision too?
Oh yeah, I had a Fender P bass as well.
Yeah, nice shit. Dude,
Hey,
it's
it's
10 after shit. AP's going. Oh fuck.
Uh-oh.
Man.
Stepping on his toes.
Yeah, we don't want to do that, man, because we love AP.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. No, really. That sounded like dumb as shit. Oh, you hate you, man.
I was just gonna be a smart ass and be like, no, fuck that guy.
All right.
Don't
Well,
go over
we've gone 3 hours and 15 minutes. Excel. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I have no problem with you shutting it down.
All right, cool. Let's do this. All right. Becca, chill out. What are you doing tomorrow? You doing something? right?
Tomorrow, yep, and tomorrow, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, I will be on my channel. Irate, you're gonna join me, correct?
I'm planning on it.
All right, with Irate and Moonshock and maybe Richo if he's sober enough. So it should be a fun time.
Holy smoke. All right, cool. Sounds good. Let's see. Brian, welcome to the server. You got anything you want to shill?
Discord.com or no, insomnus.com/discord. Yeah, just get in
Man.
there. I don't know where we're going to be streaming in the future, but that's where we're going to be notifying people from.
All right, sweet. All right.
One thing I want to interject real quick is that in Ryan from the Insomniacs, you used to have a really hard time doing shows by yourself. You're getting really fucking good at it, and I commemorate you.
Well, thank you for noticing.
I could never run a show the way you've done it, Lily. Anyway, for me, just follow at Excelerate on Gab and Minds, and follow at SCANTZIZL on Twitter, where I have a parody account now.
That's right. Even though it's a parody account, you still love it. You know that's right. Right? Well, this is Alright Prostate. Remember to subscribe to my channel and ring that bell. Ding.
Ring it hard.
Ring it hard. And tomorrow I'll be talking with RVA Dar. That should be a really good interview. And Monday, Beck and I are going to be looking at a TED Talk about the evils or the evil truth behind capitalism. And something else. I got to pick out something else. Something from days gone by. Anti-communism. That's right. It's called Extra Credit from the Gulag. All right. And next Friday, of course, Cream Stream. And then week from tonight, we'll be back here doing this thing. All right. And on that note, let's say bye, people.
Night.
Yeah.
Y'all have a great Saturday. Go over APs. Hang out. I'll be in the chat, rolling with everybody. See y'all there. Later, taters.